ざいます。
おはようございます。
Hello everyone。第
Nice.
68回ファイナルファンタジー14プロデューサーレターライブをお送りいたします。
はい
Thank you very much for tuning
Here,
in
I think I'm
to
gonna get my
Final
event
Fantasy
list
14
off.
Letter from the Producer Live number 68。
68.
皆さんに自己紹介
I'm super excited, chat. I have no idea what's going to happen. I wanted to make a bingo card, but I ran out of time.
Yoshida, producer and director of Final Fantasy 14。皆さんおはようございます。そしてこんばんは。な人も多いですね。Final Fantasy 14プロデューサー兼ディレクターの吉田です。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。そして本日進行を務めますコミュニティチーム。
Alright, what do you got, Yoshi?
よろしくお願いします。My name is Toshio Murachi, also known as a FFXIV. You are a global community producer here.
I want that shirt.
I will do the MC stuff for today's live letter. はい、そして、本日はですね、本日の、プロデュ PLL も、日本語と英語のバイリンガル放送でお送りいたしますので、我らがあいみさんがスクエニアメリカオフィスから入ってくださっております。So once again, today's letter live is fully bilingual in both Japanese and English. So we have a special member from Square Enix America office. あいみさんです。おはようございます。
おはようございます。スクエアニックスアメリカの徳武あいみです。通訳を務めさせていただきます。よろしくお願いします。Hello everyone, this is Aimi from the Square Enix Los Angeles office. I'm going to be supporting for the translations today.
はい。で本日の、PLL はですね、このセットアップをご覧になった方もいるかと思いますが、吉田さんが話したことは、あいみさんが通訳してくださいます。で、私が喋ることは私が
The question is, guys, how long are we going to be in this?
ますので、
How long is this live letter? 8 hours?
私からは大して重要な話は出ませんので、私のことを翻訳し忘れてるなというのはスルーしておいていただければと思いますのでよろしくお願いします。So today's setup is 吉田さんexplain things in Japanese and then あいみさん will do 吉田さん 's voice in English and I will translate myself. はい、そして今日の PLL はですね、前半戦はファイナルファンタジー14の新たなる挑戦、次の10年に向けてということで、吉田さんからいろいろご説明いただきます。そして後半はですね、休憩挟みまして後半は、フォーラムで事前に募集しました、パッチ 6.0 をプレイしてみての、Q&A セッションをお送りしたいと思います。So today's letter live has two major parts and then first half is the kind of presentation by producer director Naoki Yoshida, which is where we are and where we are going for next 10 years.
Next
and
10
then
years.
we have a taking break, and then latter half is the Q&A session based on your gameplay of 6.0 expansion.
はい。
はい、ということで、
I'm going to watch the first major part. I'm not going to watch the Q&A. I'll probably watch it tomorrow off stream.
こうなってる時は
I'll probably play
皆さんの
POE
コメン
after,
ト
but I
を
don't
見
know
てる
how
時な
long
ので、
part is.
今日こういうシチュエーションすごい多いと思うんで、
It could be like 3 hours. I
見
don't
てくだ
know.
さい。
So you might see me turning my head sometimes when I'm speaking, but I'm actively looking at the
Reading
comments
chat.
that people are
Yeah.
making
You always
as
read
they
chat.
watch the stream. So you may see me turned this way, but I am still participating. So just wanted to let you know.
まあちょっとね、日本のコメントで
So
ね、
he always reads chat.
この手の通訳放送はテンポ悪いんだよなって言ってる人いるんですけど、まあグローバル全体でね、お届けしているので、吉田の長い話をですね、あいみさん一生懸命ね、通訳してくれてるんで、そこはね、それを言われると我々ちょっと悲しくなるんで、そういう、まあファンフェスのステージぐらいで思って見てもらえると嬉しいかな。
And we do see some comments about how translations kind of drag on the pace. It doesn't feel as quick. But I mean, it's here to try to facilitate communicating Yoshida's comments. It makes us sad if you're disappointed that it's in two languages. But perhaps if you look at it like a FanFest stage event where we have the Japanese and English, maybe that might help it make it more fun.
あとコメントで今日は 6.1 はがっつりじゃないんですかっていうのもあるんですが、So we see some comments. Do we have any further updates for 6.1? So 6.1 がっつりってことだけはないんですよね。
そうですね、パッチ 6.1 の内容と紹介に関しては3月4日、
はい、4日です
に、パッチ 6.1 特集パート1の PLL をやる予定なので、6.1 のまあでも今日ちょっと出ますけどね、6.1 の詳しいところはそっちに譲ります。
So yeah, today's broadcast is not literally going to be just about 6.1. We may touch upon it, but then the details are going to be explained on another episode of the live letter on March the 4th. This is JST, but we will go into details at that timing.
Is that March 3rd for us,
あと
though?
はま
So that's
あ
not
な
far
んか
either.
こう重大発表的なねニュアンスで取られてるけど楽しく気楽に行くので皆さんもですね緊張せず気楽に今日は見てもらえると嬉しいです。
And some people might be bracing for a very important announcement when we talk about today's broadcast, but that's not the intent. We would love for you to just
Yeah, what's up,
relax
Momo?
and just have fun with the broadcast.
面白いですよ。
なんかこういうこと言うたびにさ
I have no idea what they're gonna announce.
の出るんだよな。
It's gotta be something big, though, because it's a
俺さ
special
でも
live letter.
いつだっけ
It's not even 6.1 live letter. That's in 2
発表会で
weeks.
さ言ったばっかだよね。
そうですね
ライフワークだって言ってるんでそういう話じゃないんですよ。
And I understand we were talking about like the future of Final Fantasy XIV, but every time we mention something like that, people are like, "Oh no, is Yoshida going to quit?" And no, I think I
No.
told us when we were doing our announcement showcase in February. It's like 14 is my life work. It's not like I'm going to just up and leave suddenly.
もうそんなんで嘘つきってやるの嫌だからなんだろうそんなね自分の去就をね重大発表をしますみたいなねことは言わないですよ。
ちょっと恥ずかしいね。
うん。
I mean,
Are you watching no
I don't
more?
want people to be going around saying, "Oh, you're such a liar," because I mean, I'm not the type of person who would make these kinds of like my personal announcements on a live stream. So
さあでは、やっていきましょうか早速。前半だいたいね2時間ぐらい、後半も多分2時間ぐらい使うんじゃないかなと思います。なのでご飯食べたりですね今日土曜日なんで飲める人はお酒飲みながらとかでも全然いいので、楽しくいきましょう。
I'm shaking shit.
So we're looking at least for the first
Very
part, we're looking
excited.
at about 2 hours broadcast.
2 hours?
And so just you're free to do like you have dinner or like eat lunch as you're watching the broadcast. It is a Saturday, so if you want to start drinking early, you're more than welcome to do so.
We're drinking. There's to then saw your watch this unless want to voice chat. I'll watch from yours. Yeah, we can voice chat if you want.
はい。
Oh
じゃ
no!
あ早速いきますが、改め
Today's
て今日
topics.
お
Oh,
話し
here
す
we
る
go,
内
here we
容の
go.
トピックおさらいしておきましょう。
Okay, so jumping right in, let me go over the topics we will cover.
I can't do that right now, bud.
で、まず一つ目はちょっとですね、まあ14これまで、正確にはね11年やってきているので、まあちょっと振り返りを最初にね、皆さんへの感謝も込めて、やりたい
Journeyed
と
this
思いま
far,
す。
14 from 2010 to
First topic, of
2021.
course, it's been about 11 years, to be accurate.
What's up, Counter? How's it
how
going?
long 14 has been going on. So we'd like to kind of
Here, I'm
do a
gonna get
little
on
bit of a
Discord real quick.
retrospect, just convey our thanks to our players and look back on everything.
でまあそれを振り返った上でですね、
We
まあ
found
ちょっとこの先
futures,
じゃあ
the next
さらに
10 years.
もう
Oh,
10年は
that's the
僕続けたいと
spicy
思ってるん
one.
で、まあこの先10年さらに14を発展させていくために、まあ新しい挑戦やっていきますよといろいろそこについてまあどんなことやっていくのかというのをお知らせしたいと思います。
And then once we do look back on our past, then we look forward to the next 10 years. Because as I mentioned, I would love to continue having Final Fantasy XIV for yet another 10 years. So there are many different things that we want to do in order to continue expanding Final Fantasy XIV, many challenges that we want to take on. So I want to touch upon some of those items in today's broadcast.
でここまでいったら1回休憩を挟んで、放送の後半として3つ目、パッチ 6.0 行列フィナーレ、プレイしてみて何かありますかというので Q&A 事前に質問募集していましたのでそれに対していろいろお答えしていこうかなと思ってます。
And once we do that, we will have a break in between, and then it'll go into the latter half of the show.
The Q&A,
where
I'm not
we
gonna
kind of
watch. I'll watch
ask
that on
the
my own
players,
time.
What did you think after playing 6.0? And so we
I think
will
that'd just
do
be kind of
a
a
bit of
fun
an
watch,
end
but,
walker Q&A.
あと10年から吉田リビングデッドを使う気だなみたいなコメントがあったりね。
We're seeing comments like, oh, 10 more years, huh? Is Yoshida going to kick off his living dead?
まああったよね確かにね。吉田の量産を開始しましたとか、クローンの吉田が誕生したので紹介しますとかそういうのじゃねえかって書かれてましたね。
But yeah, I think I've seen comments similar to that, and like people saying, "Oh, we have mass manufactured Yoshida clones."
でなぜか私はもう完了してますよって書いてあるんですよ。
そう。
Yeah, then I say I've done already. So something like that.
では早速いきましょうか。まずはまあ正確にはね11年なんですけど、大きくくくってまあ10年ここまで皆さんとねやってきたのをちょっと振り返っていきたいと思います。
Okay, so jumping into the timeline here, of course, accurately it's 11 years, but like we'll call this the 10 years of Final Fantasy 14.
まあいろいろありましたね。まあ2010年サービスを開始して、その12月に運営
I wonder if they're gonna switch their
開発も一新して、僕はここから参加ですね。
Hello.
So first, 2010 was when it all started. Many things that happened caused us to sort of reconsider.
I wonder if they're gonna
the
redo their scheduling.
And there was a lot of changes that were made in order to kind of reboot the title. So this is when Yoshida joined into the project.
で2021年の2011年の10月14日に、まあ、14日が縁起がいいだろうっていうので申請をやりますよという発表してますね。
And then 2011, October 14th, we were thinking 14th must bring us good luck. And that's when we announced that we are going to have Final Fantasy 14 Reborn.
海外の皆さん詳しいよね。あゆみさんも
インタビューに言
ってくれたと思うけど、9番を遊んでみたいので、復活9番のサー
バー
ありませんかって、クラシックファイナルファンタジー14やる気ありませんかって、ナイトメアって答えたやつ、みんな覚えてて、ナイトメアってすげえ。
No More has joined us, just so you guys know, chat.
I love how the comments from the West are, I love how they know all these details, and I'm sure Aimi had sat into the interviews as well, but people were asking about, oh, are you going to make an FF14 1.0 classic like WoW Classic did theirs? And Yoshida answered, Nightmare, and so people are calling the time of 1.0 in Nightmare. It's awesome.
でまあ2012年
You think you do,
1月
but you
11
don't.
日にですね、時代の終焉トレーラー公開とともにですね、一旦申請の準備のために Q14 のサービスを
Okay, then my internet's messing with the BRB. I can fix it. All right, dude.
And of course, in November
So no more. Any
11th
predictions?
of 2012,
Like, do you have any feelings
we
on what they're gonna
titled it
say?
The End of an Era, and we sort of
Not really.
closed
For the future
the service
of
for
14.
the
I haven't really tried
original
to
version
think
of
about
Final
anything
Fantasy
anyways.
14.
まあ9番からねやってくださってる方も結構
It's only
い
the
る
next 10 years,
し
man.
9番の捉え方って結構まず大事だとは思うんですけど9番のラスト付近はそれはそれでまた独特のゲームデザインの MMO として結構ね好きだった面白くなったんだよって言ってくれる人たちもたくさんいてまあ僕ら
Yeah, I don't try to guess much anyways. I just try to see what surprises.
Yeah, I just like doing silly predictions and completely being wrong.
And of course, people who have been playing since the original 1.0 may have their different opinions about how the game had played. But there were people who thankfully acknowledged how 14 was starting to shift, and they did take notice about how the game design was unique, despite we were looking to sunset the original version. And so it was wonderful that people acknowledged that, and that was very encouraging for us as a team.
ちなみに9番から今日視聴してくださってる方で Q14 からやってるよって方、どうですか手を挙げてもらってもいいですか
So if I could have people in the comments by show of hands, I don't know how you raise your hands, but like anybody who's been playing since 1.0, the original Final Fantasy 14,
First time I
we
ever
would
played
love to
was
see
Heaven's
who's
Ward.
been with us since then.
めっちゃいるな
There's a lot.
How long have you played No More?
Wow. Thank you very much.
Around
すごいありがたい
near the
That's
End of
amazing.
Heaven's
Thank you
Ward.
guys.
Okay. I started when Heaven's Ward came out, but I only
まあここからね
played
あ
for
と
like
10年
a
お互い
month
結婚に気をつけ
because I
て
didn't know anyone
楽しんでいきましょう
time playing it.
But yeah,
But yeah, I've heard interesting stories about 1.0, so
take
that
care
would
of
have
our
been
health
fun
and
to
keep
play, I
going.
think.
Yeah,
That's
I watched
awesome.
the
で、
Watched like the no clip
2013年ですね、
documentary. That's
ベ
like
ータテ
really
スト
good.
をやりながら、2013年8月
All
27
the
日
stuff they went
につい
through.
に新生オルゼア正式サービス開始することができました。
So moving on, 2013, we start our beta testing for A Realm Reborn, and then August 27 of the same year, we
First
were
fan
able
fest of
to
2014.
relaunch as A Realm Reborn.
振り返るとですね、2011年の3月ぐらいから一気に新生14の設計だけ5人ぐらいで設計をスタートして、2011年の6月から6人のプログラマーがコードを書き始めたのを覚えてるので、実質そこから2年2ヶ月で新生リリースしてるので、もうちょっと驚異的今振り返ると。
And looking back, it was 2011 in March. We started at least doing the framework, just the design structure first. And it was a very small team that worked on it. It was 5 people who started on the base framework. And then starting June of that same year, 2011, we had 6 programmers starting to write code. And considering it took about 2 years and 2 months to relaunch, that's just incredible.
で、念願だったですねファンフェスっていうのを2014年の10月からですね、スタートすることができました。今でも覚えてます。
And of course, by 2014, October, we were able to hold our very first fan festival. That was something that we really wanted to do.
初めてやった北米のファンフェスの基調講演でステージに上がった時の大歓声でですね、もう足が震えて
Stormblood.
I still remember it today. The first time we did our fan festival, and we started out in the North America region. And when I took the stage to do my keynote presentation, and just the cheer that I received from the audience, man, my legs were shaking when I was up there.
で初の拡張であるヘブンズワード、2015年の6月にリリースしてその後の8月に、全世界累計登録者数が500万人を突破したと。
And then next we were able to launch our first ever expansion pack, Heaven's Word, in 2015 June, and then soon after
5 million
we
players at the
reached
time,
5 million registered players.
でこの辺りはですね
They doubled it from
我々
Stormblood.
開発チームもですね高難易度高難易度って言われてよしやっちゃうぞって言ってもうキリッキリなのをやったらですねいや難しすぎんだろってなってですね我々もいろいろな失敗を繰り返しつつですね今につながってる本当重要な時期だったと思います、ここは。
The cosplayer.
But this is around the time when people were starting to clamor for higher difficult content, and the dev team got so excited about, oh yeah, you want difficult, and so we gave you a really.
I heard some
really
stories about
tough,
Heaven's Ward
content,
rating.
and people started complaining now about, oh no, this is too difficult, Yoshida, this is too
Yeah, it
difficult.
was kind of
So
fun.
we were trying to
Yeah, 'cause
find
I
that
heard that
balance. It
one
was
raid
trial
took
and
like
error trying to
3
get to
months or
that
something like that
nice
to clear.
balance. But I think it was really
Ridiculous.
important that we're making that conversation.
Gotcha.
あれでね僕は人生の
Is
格
that
言
the
の一
first
つ
tier of
を
Heaven's
学ん
Ward?
だんですよ。
Fourth boss?
プレイヤーの皆さんにはいやちょっと簡単だったなって言われるぐら
I'm
い
trying
が
to think which
ち
tier
ょう
was
どいいん
like
だな
super
と。
hard. The people had a like
And
people are like
then it was then that I learned
destroying their
this
FCs
very
and statics.
valuable lesson, which
Yeah, I
is
don't know.
I think it's best.
I know I
for
did
difficulty
some
where the
from
players would
Heaven's
walk
Ward,
out
but
of
I
it
don't
saying,
know
that was
Yeah.
pretty easy.
which was really for other
で、
people.
グレンド
Yeah, it
リ
was
ベ
like
レ
the
ーターを
longest fight
発
for
売
like
したのが
world first.
2017年6月で、この辺りから
The
よ
game was like
う
way
やく
different
こう
than
バトルコンテンツ
what it is
以外の
now.
そのもう14の世界に住むみたいなことをより具体化していけるようになったのがこのぐらいの時期で、まあそれがね、功を奏してですね、登録者数が、まあ、この時点で1000万人突破と。
And then, of course,
Oh yeah,
Stormblood
no.
released in
Heaven's Ward was the
2017 June,
Alexander, so
and we started
I didn't
looking
really do
at
that.
various other
I
types
heard
of
that was really
content
hard.
aside from
Yes,
battle and
I
combat.
have heard that too.
Content that would
I've heard
involve
the
the
horror
feeling
stories
of
of
living in
raiding
the
back
world
then.
of Final Fantasy XIV. And I think that really struck a chord with people. People were resonating with it, which thankfully got us to our registered player number up to 14 million players.
思い出されるグレンのリベレーター初日のねラウバーン透滅戦
Now,
すごかったです
I think
ね。
they didn't they just hit like 30 mil?
And I
register
still remember
people?
when Stormblood first launched, Rauban Extreme.
I don't
I
remember.
guess we'll find out soon. Anyway, it's gonna tell us the next
ありまし
slide.
た
Oh
ね
yes, Rob on the street.
I think we all remember that.
まああの失敗があってね今の安定したキューイングシステムがあったりするからね
But I mean, even with that failure, we learned from it and we were able to build a much better queuing system.
そしてですね2018年になると、全世界登録者数が1400万人を突破して、2019年には、1600万人を突破とありがとうございます
So I'm sorry, this is where we hit 14 million is 2018 August. And then moving on, we reached 16 million players by 2019 May. So thank you so much for all the players that are staying with us.
そうして続けてですね2019年に、漆黒のヴィランズを発売しその年末にはですね全世界累計登録者数が1800万人を、突破となりました
And moving on, we released Shadowbringers in 2019, and soon after, we surpassed 18 million registered players.
数字に関して言うと、単純に数字だけをこう見ていくとそのなんていうの増えるペースっていうのがばらついてるようにまあ見えるのかもしれないんですけど実は体験したことのある人が増えれば増えるほど、新規が当然減るんですよね、はい、パイが決まってるところから新しい人を呼ばなきゃいけないのでだからここまでの数字になってるのにさらに数百万増やしていくっていうこと自体はとてもすごいことでこれは本当ね、まあ、開発運営チームの努力もそうなんですけどマーケティング PR チームが、はい、コミュニティの皆さんと一緒になって達成してきてる数字なので本当にこれはね誇らしい数字だと思ってます。
And looking at the numbers, it might seem like there's no real, like nothing of note. Oh yeah, the numbers are just increasing. But if you consider this, if we have a certain number of people already playing the game, and if we have a single pie that we're taking numbers out of, like you would expect the numbers to start going down, but it's interesting that we see more and more players join us even after all these years. We are seeing millions signing up. So, of course, I really want to acknowledge the development team, operations team, but also the marketing and PR teams working with the community to kind of promote the title and get the word out. So I'm very proud of their achievements.
そして2021年、去年ですね、12月2日にはですね全世界累計登録者数が2500万人を突破しちょっと昨日の数字とかは見てないですけどまだ全然まだ上がってってると思うので、で12月7日ですねすいません2週間ほどちょっと遅延をさせていただくことにはなってしまいましたが、行月のフィナーレを発売して、ハイデリンゾディアーク編完結というところまでこぎつけてこられたなと。
We're about to get to the spicy stuff now, no more.
Of course, 2021, which is last year, we surpassed 25 million registered players. I did not see yesterday's numbers or like as of yesterday's numbers, but I do understand that our numbers are still increasing. And then afterwards, I know we had to delay the release by about 2 weeks. Again, apologies for the delay, but we were able to release Endwalker, and finally we were able to conclude the overarching story of Heidelin and Zodiark.
まあ、
Yep, which is something you've rarely seen in this game.
11年
I don't think I've ever seen
で
it.
した。
I
でも
can't
本
think
当
of
に
one
ね、
at
世
least.
界中のプレイヤーの皆さん、光の選手の皆さん、メディアの皆さんもね、関係各社の皆さんにも本当にものすごくこんなに支えてもらうタイトルは他にないだろうと思うぐらい支えていただいてここまで来れたので、改めて本当に感謝をお伝えしたいと思います。ありがとうございます。
And it feels like a long time, but man, these 11 years went by very quickly for me. And all of our warriors of light, our players, members of the media, all of our supporting partner companies as well. There were just so many people that supported us throughout this all. So I do want to take this opportunity to convey my gratitude from the bottom of my heart. So I sincerely thank everybody.
はい。あとは本当ね、開発チームにも、本当に厳しいスケジュールでやってきてて、実は拡張パッケージそのものの開発期間って1年とか、下手すると1年切ってたりするんで、本当に頑張ってきてもらいました。
And I also want to acknowledge the development team as well. They were always working against a very harsh schedule, and even developing some of our expansion packs. Sometimes we have only about a year or even less than a year to get through all of the tasks that needed to get done. So I really want to show my appreciation to them as well.
さて、ではこれを踏まえてですね、ここまで歩んできたその11年、9番の状態を考えれば、これ以上ないぐらいの成功をさせていただいたと思ってます。ここはあんまり言葉を隠さずに成功できてると思ってるので、それでいいと思ってるんですけど、ここまではある意味もう過去になったので、ここからさらに次の10年また挑戦を続けていきたいと思います。
And looking at the trajectory here and the path we've walked down, I think I want to consider this a success from what we had taken and what state it was in when we had first taken on the project, and to bring it to where it is now. I'm not ashamed to declare it. It might be a little awkward in the Japanese, but I believe it is a success, and I think it's a good thing that we've gotten here. But now that we have gotten this far, all of this is now in the past, and so we want to look to the future. We want to see what kind of challenges we can take on.
というわけで2つ目のセクションである14の新しい挑戦と題してですね、今後どういうことをやっていくよというのをお伝えしていきたいと思います。
So for the second part of this presentation, as you see, it is entitled Newfound Futures. So I would like to discuss what we are intending to do.
まずですね、僕としてはですね、社長から辞めろって言われるか、辞めろって言われても抵抗するとは思うんですけど開発チーム運営チームから辞めろって言われるか死ぬかぐらいの以外では14を辞める気がなく続けていきますんで、この先もぜひ皆さんよろしくお願いします。
And me personally as Yoshida, unless the CEO says, Yoshida, you need to leave, and even then, I think I'm going to fight him.
We're watching
if,
this newfound futures here.
The operations team want to kick me out, or if I, God forbid, die. Those are the only extreme cases I would even consider leaving the 14 project. I want to continue working on Final Fantasy 14, so your continued support will definitely be appreciated.
というわけでですね、まず今回その10年さらにこう14をせっかくねここまで日本初のそのサービスでこの規模まで来れるってなかなかあることじゃないので、この先の10年に向けてまずは 7.0 をめがけて、新しいことに挑戦していこうと思ってます。
We met up with TM
Of
and
course,
all that
with
stuff.
this title, and considering
Maybe
that
we'll
this
check on
game
her.
was launched from a Japanese development studio, and being able to expand to this global scope, it's a rarity, I think. And so my next goal, my future goal, is now looking at 7.0 and leading up to that, what can we do?
コメントが 7.0 って言ったかで
大丈夫大丈夫、もうシナリオ会議の1回目やってたから合宿やったから 7.0 はやるよ。
People are already speculating about, oh no, 7.0 confirmed? Well, I mean, we are already talking about scenario for 7.0. I'm not afraid to say that we do intend on doing a 7.0.
まずここに向けてちょっとコンセプトを話をさせてもらいます。まずその一つ目がこちらになります。
This is solo and multiplayer RPG experience.
Now, that being said, I do want to establish what my thinking is and the concept behind what we're trying to do leading up to 7.0. And this is the first point.
まあこれ具体的にどういうことっていうのはこの後ちゃんと、お話ししようと思います。
And of course, I will go into detail as to what this exactly means.
そしてですね、7.0 に向けて、チャレンジとしてですね、こちら、第1次グラフィックスのアップデートの準備開発というのをやっていきます。
And then next, again, leading up to 7.0, and one of the challenges that we want to take on is our first graphical update, at least the preparation and the development for it.
まあなんで第一次ってついてるかっていうのも後で、
ARR gonna look a lot better.
僕の掘り下げでちょっとお話しようと思います。
My graphics
And of
card is
course,
gonna look a lot hotter.
when we dive into each of these different points, I
It's
will
been a
touch
long
upon
time.
why
This
we
is
are
their
calling
first
this the
one.
first graphical update.
まあ一応先に言っとくコメントが結構多いんで7.0 で PS4 が遊べなくなるってことはないです。それはないのでお約束しておきます。
I do want to clarify though, because I am seeing a lot of comments wondering about this. This does not necessarily mean that we are ceasing the support for PS4 as of 7.0. So I do want to clear that.
No,
clear
PS4
that
should
out
be
first.
fine.
そしてですね、今日3つ目、せっかくなのでパッチ 6.X シリーズでどんなことをやっていくかというのもお知らせします。
And then the third point, I mean, since we are here, I would like to take the opportunity to cover what we are planning to do throughout the 6.x series.
Please be Island Sanctuary 6.1, please.
はい、では各項目、詳しくよりお伝えしていこうと思います。
Diving into the details.
Please, please, please.
まずコンセプトの一つ目ですね。一人でもみんなでも遊べる
This is gonna be their follower
RPG へ、
system.
さらなる進化をしていきますと。
So our first concept, an even better RPG, alone or with friends.
これまあ何かというとですね、まあ読んで字のごとくなんですけど、
Oh, he took the glasses off.
ファイナルファンタ
Serious
ジ
now.
ー14、一応ジャンルとしては MMORPG って呼ばれてます。
So, I mean, it is what it says, of course, but yes, I understand that Final Fantasy XIV as a game genre would be categorized as an MMORPG.
そこでですね、まあ僕この11年ファイナルファンタジー14
If they fix the MSQ
世界中のこうプレイヤーの皆さん
with
と
the
イベントだ
follower
ったり
system would be awesome.
こうまあファンフェスも含めてですけど、本当たくさんのゲーマーの人たちとこう話をしてきました。
And of course, throughout the 11 years of doing Final Fantasy XIV, we did various events, gaming events, including Fan Festival, and I had the opportunity to speak with the different gamers.
そこでですね、あとそのマーケティングチームに市場調査とかをしてもらって、まあこれね定期的に拡張のたびにやってるんですけど、やっぱりこうそこで出てくる答えっていうのが、まあ、なかなかブレイクスルーできないなっていうのがあったりします。
And of course, I would have my marketing teams perform market research as well. And this is something we regularly do when we start to plan for upcoming expansion packs. And with the information that we receive, and there's always like a question that we never seem to find a way to break through.
2つあって、1つはファイナルファンタジーシリーズ大好きなんだよ、すごいファンなんだ、全部やってるよ、ただし11と14以外ねっていうのがめちゃくちゃ悔しい。
So there's actually two, and one of them is we see there's a lot of players that love Final Fantasy and many that claim they've played all of the Final Fantasies except for 11 and 14, which is very frustrating.
まあ11もね今かなりアップデートをかけてかなり大部分ねソロで遊べるように快適にしてますが、14はさらにその先行きたいと思ってます。
I haven't played
And
them
of
all.
course, we are
I've at
paying
least
attention
tried them
to
all. Some
Final
of them I
Fantasy
do not
11
like, so I
players
don't
as well, and
continue.
we've made various updates. I think it has become very solo friendly recently, but with Final Fantasy 14, we want to go beyond that.
あとはこうもう一つはですね、オンラインなんだよね、めんどくさい、人と遊ぶの嫌、なんかこう人間関係作るの嫌っていうのがですね、やっぱりナンバーワンなんですよね、そのプレイをしない理由っていうところで。
The second point we are trying to reach a breakthrough is people who comment about, oh, online play, I don't want to deal with having to play with other people. I don't want to develop relationships online. And that's actually a very large reason, if not the number one reason, many players kind of hesitate playing 14.
だから10年かけて MMORPG っていうジャンルじゃなくて、一人でもみんなでも遊べる RPG っていうジャンルにしたいと、14を。
So what I want to do here is spend the next 10 years and break out of that MMORPG category. I want this to be an RPG that can be enjoyed alone or with friends.
まずなので、7.0 でまでの間、フェイスシステムの大規模アップデートっていうのをやっていきます。
So, as a lead up to 7.0 or until that time, we will continue to make updates to the trust system.
パッチ 6.1 から 6.5 までの5つのメジャーパッチで全メインクエストの必須 ID と4人用の透滅戦をすべてフェイス対応します。
So as it says here, trust compatibility for all main scenario dungeons and 4-player trials to be added in patch 6.1 through 6.5.
まあ順次、
I feel like they're gonna do the whole game,
パッチ例えば 6.2 とかを見る
Yeah,
と
that's probably
中
the
途半端な
plan.
ところまでしか対応
There's a
さ
lot
れ
of
てない
like
とかい
people
う
that
こ
just
と
want to
が
play the story.
ある可能性は高いんですけど、
Yep.
それにね怯えているといつまで経ってもできないので全部一気には不可能なので、もうなのでこの 6.1 から 6.5 つまり 7.0 までの間を次に飛び上がるためにもうどんどん順次やっていくという期間に当てさせてください。
And so, of course, these are going to be incremental implementation. And so you might look at, say, patch 2 point something and 6.2, and you might notice that maybe not all of the dungeons have been supported with a trust system compatibility. But if we are afraid to make progress and be just in the middle of work in a certain major patch update, we won't be able to make progress. I think it's impossible to do everything at once. So we are trying to address this as we can, and we're looking at this as a preparation for 7.0. And so we would like to ask for your understanding as we lay these foundations.
その第1弾となるパッチ 6.1 では新
6.1 will
生
make a
ロ
realm
ーゼア
reborn.
編のうち、2.0
Wow.
範囲をすべて
Already?
対応します。
So the first implementation,
Well,
patch
kind of figured that they
will
would
make
start with
a
the
realm
Realm Reborn
reborn, and
first.
this is just
Yeah, but I
patch
didn't think it would be next
2.0
patch, though.
range, and the scenarios
Well,
do
because they said
become
6.1,
trust
that's
compatible.
why.
そしてですね、それに伴って一部初期のですねメインクエスト ID とか、透滅戦もリ
API
ニュ
trials
ーア
will
ルし
not
ま
be
す。
updated at this time. Those updates are for
And then
7.0 or
further
later.
improvements will be made to some low-level main scenario dungeons and trials.
でちょっと注意なんですけど、
Does it say fix
蒼
the
天の石ガルドに入ってから
MSQ roulette?
8人透滅戦ストーリー上に出てくるあれらはちょっとやっぱりコストを全見積もりしたんですけど、どうしてもこう 6.1 から 6.5 までの期間では対応しきれないので、8人の透滅戦に関しては 7.0 以降順次対応していくつもりです。
You may see the disclaimers on the bottom, but for the 8-player trials, especially those with the Heaven's Word expansion. I'm afraid we are unable to update it at this time. We tried to calculate all the cost and the resources that it would take for us to address all of this within that sort of 6.1 through
Trials are a lot more
6.5
going
timing,
on.
but I'm afraid
Yep.
we would be unable to allocate the resources for it. So we will get to it after 7.0.
It's fine.
Yeah, these updates will be considered for 7.0 or later.
まあもちろん皆さんご存知の通り、その通常のねマッチングがなくなるわけじゃないので、あくまでストーリーを一人で進めていきたいっていう人のための機能なので、レベリングルーレットだったりねマッチングっていうところはそのまま継続していくので、そこはご承知おきください。
And of course, we don't intend to do away with the regular matching systems. Your leveling dungeons and queue matching in duty finders will still be active and available. These trust compatibility is primarily for those who have a strong desire to play through these story dungeons on their own.
Yeah.
で、ですね、8人透滅戦は今回行月のフィナーレでハイデリン透滅戦でテストケースとしても含めてやったんですけど、やれることは
I like it too because it is slower.
確証を得られたんですけど、まあ相当やっぱりコストがかかるっていうのとギミックから調整していかないといけないっていうこともあって、まずは数の多い ID から優先させていただいてます。あとはね、8人なんで責任のかかり方がちょっと減るんでやっぱり。まあここは逆にマッチングの面白さみたいなところも味わってもらいたいので、一旦7.0 以降にさせてください。
And of course, with these 8 people trials or 8-person battles, we did try it out with the Mother Crystal trial, and we were able to see success as like a test case, but it did require a lot of resources for us to build it. And then if we were to start applying that system to existing dungeons, we'd have to adjust the mechanics so that it would accommodate for the trust system. So at this time, we made the decision to move forward with just the instanced dungeons. And with an 8-person trial, I think that sort of reduces the responsibility per person going into the match, hopefully. So we're hoping that players would still jump into like a duty finder and hopefully get the enjoyment out of matching up with random people.
Yeah,
so at this time, we are unable to address it within the 6.1 through 6.5 period, but we are looking to it for 7.0 or later.
That's only the normal ones.
で、ちょっと注意なんですけど、はい。まあどうしてもフェイスっていう呼び方をすると、暁といけんのかなとか名のある NPC といけんのかなってイメージがちょっと強いと思うんですけど、ストーリー上こうそのマッチングでしかいけないからこそ、じゃあ俺は他のことをやってくるみたいなのでこうみんなちょっといなくなったりとかしてたと思うんですよ。あれまで全部変えるはさすがに無理なので特に序盤とかは冒険者ギルドのメンバーだったりとか、暁の光のなんだろうこう光の加護を持っているであろう他のメンバーみたいなイメージで組むケースが多いです。
And I want to make another point of caution here. Whenever we say trust compatibility, I think the thought that, oh, can we go into this dungeon with members of the Scions or any sort of named NPCs? And some of these story dungeons have key players kind of leaving the scene, like where the Warrior of Light goes into a dungeon and say somebody goes up and say, oh, I'm going to take care of matters over there. We can't have them come back just to join you in the dungeon. So in those cases, especially the earlier dungeons, you will see your trust members as like members from the Adventurers Guild or maybe other people who have the Echo accompany you in these dungeons.
ただ、まあキーになるストーリー上のキーになるポイントで、まあこいつはやっぱり本当はダンジョン一緒に行ってほしかったなってプレイヤーの皆さんが思ってるようなポイントは シナリオを一部カットシーンも含めてちょっと変更してでもできるだけそれにまあ添えるように、やっぱりゼックと対峙するときはエスニアンも行って欲しかったなみたいなやつはできる限りそういうシチュエーションはなんとか対応していこうと思ってるので、一部ねそれもちょっと変更する部分があるかなとは思います。全部は無理なんで、はい、そこはご了承ください。
But that being said, there are certain key points in the story where we do understand players might have a very strong desire to have particular NPCs accompany you in a dungeon. So in some extreme cases, and not extreme cases, but like some key points, the team will make some adjustments. We may have to change a part of the script so that it'll make sense for the character to join you. An example I can come up with off the top of my head is probably the Nidhogg battle. I'm sure a lot of people would have thought like, oh, it would have been nice to have Estinian join as part of the Trust NPC. So we're considering having that available. So there may be some content that accommodates for certain NPCs to join you. I'm afraid we can't address all of them. We can't make it happen with all of the dungeons. So your understanding on that would be appreciated.
そしてですね、ごめんねちょっと長くて、6.1 特集パート1の時にまた詳しくお話ししようと思いますが、はい、新生オルゼアの後半って結構今のレギュレーションと違ってしまってるこうダンジョンとかが多いので、かなり手が入ってますいろいろ。
And of course, with the details of 6.1, we will have a dedicated live letter for that, and I will delve into details at that time. But I do want to mention that much of the content, especially in the later half of ARR, differ in how the regulation is set up. So there are changes that have been made.
まあ例えばトトラクとかの、ドゥーンってなってヘビースローがかかるヘビーがかかる床とかなくなってます。
For example, like when you go into the Thousand Miles of Totorak, and you step on those like poison floors, and all of a sudden you are hit with heavy or slow, we're actually getting rid of that.
まあ、あとはちょっと Q14 から申請するのに急いで作ってちょっとライティング良くないなとかいうところのダンジョンのちょっと絵的な調整もそれなりにやってます。
And there are also some aesthetical changes that we wanted to make.
Well, I don't know they're
certain
saying about
areas
pods,
of
but
the earlier
I
part
think
of
they're meaning the floor when you
when
are
we're
on
trying
it.
to quickly just relaunch as a Realm Reborn. So there were areas where lighting may not have been 100% to what we would have been satisfied with. So we went back in and adjusted those as well.
そしてですね、まあ他にもですね、8人パーティーバトルの一番最初であるビットアッティン教習戦なんですけど、なくなります。
And then one of the first 8-person party battles that you encounter, I believe, is Camp Westwind. And I want to mention that we are doing away with that.
皆さん大ショックを受けておられますね。People are
You're getting rid of it?
帝国の盾としてね、武人として身を挺してやってきた、ね、帝国将軍の一人、まあ将軍ではないけど正しくは8人でフルボッコはいかがなものかということでですね、ちゃんとコストをかけてですね、クエストインスタンスバトルとして、生まれ変わりますので。
The strat song.
Considering Litatine is like the shield of the Garland Empire. I mean, he's technically not a captain, but like, I mean, he's like a very prominent figure. I think it would be very humiliating for 8 people to come in and just beat him up. So we actually allocated the resources to rebuild that battle so that it's going to be a quest instanced battle that you go in.
Oh, okay. So
まあ
it's
他
still
にも
there.
内閣外閣と呼ばれている8人ダンジョン、あれらもですね、今回すべて4人用 ID に作り直してあります。
And then, of course, the Praetorium and the Castrum Sorry, I can't pronounce it. Meridianum. Meridianum, those very long Guardian bases that you need to go. They were originally 8-person content, but we are going to be changing it so that these are 4-person instanced dungeons.
Interesting.
Nice.
なのでアルテマウェポン戦も切り出して、4人用としてシナリオモードを作って、であとラハブレアが憑依したサンクレットさんを8人でただひたすら無言で殴るっていうのも
Had to do something with that.
ストーリー用の
It's just interesting that they're just making it 4.
Yeah.
はい
And so your battle with Ultima, or the Ultima weapon, will be changed to a 4-person battle. We are adjusting the scenario mode for that. And then where you go in and silently beat up La Habrea, aka Thancred being possessed by La Habrea, is also going to be adjusted so that it's like an instance during a story quest.
というわけで、まあそんな風にコストもですね、レギュレーション今のプレイフィールにできるだけ近づけられるように、いろんな改修をしつつですね、6.1 から 6.5 にかけて、4.x までの ID ですね、全部対応していこうと思いますので、よろしくお願いします。
So, yeah, in a nutshell, we are going in and making many adjustments so that it fits with kind of follows suit better with how the game feels at this time. So throughout patch 6.1 through 6.5, we will be looking at the various content up to the 4.x series, the different instance dungeon to make it.
They haven't said it yet.
さあではこのセクション以上で
It's like they do the
次へ行きた
solo
いと思い
thing.
ます。
And like, let's say
So
you're a
moving
player
on to
that
the
doesn't
next
care about the
section.
story. I know that's against Final Fantasy. But
2つ目の新しい挑戦です
they
ね。
wanted this like go
こ
through.
の
Because it's a
6.1
long
から
thing.
6.5 までの期間、まあ 7.0
14's
リリース
first
の期間を
graphical
使ってで
update.
す
What are
ね
they gonna
ま
do?
ずまあ長期運営やっていく
Unreal
上
Engine
で
5.
第
No,
一次のグラフィックスアップデートを裏でね作業させていただきます。
They gotta be updating ARR.
So our second concept, and again, this is going to be the preparation that we will be doing throughout patch 6.1 through 6.5, leading up to the launch of 7.0. It is a long-term, or like preparations for long-term operation of the game, and
This is all
we
coming in
want
this
to be
expansion. That's
doing
crazy.
this in the background, but we'll be preparing for our first graphics update.
ただ、まあ、なぜ第一次グラフィックスアップデートと言ってるかっていうと、まあ2時も3時もあるんだろう もしかしたらってことなんですけどなぜかというともうここまで11年運営してきてるともう尋常じゃないリソースグラフィックスアセットが存在してます。
Dark said.
So the reason why we named this the first graphical update, and that's of course to imply that there will probably a second and or third after this, but our game has been in operation for about 11 years, and considering all the graphical assets we have produced, it's an insane amount.
やっぱり一気に極限まで上げようとすると絶対コンバートミスがあったりとか、そもそもコンバートの物理時間が足りなくてもうデザインチームが無理です絶対できませんっていう答えになってしまうので、まあやれることを一回やって引き上げたらまたその状態で安定が見えたら次のをやってっていう形で、まあその第1回目が来るんだというふうに思ってください。
And so if we attempted to update every single piece of graphical asset or resource that we've put into the game all at the same time, we might run into issues of conversion errors, or it's just physically takes a lot of time to convert everything. And consulting with the graphics team, they already know that we can't address everything all at the same time. And so what we're trying to do is address these in phases so that we can test out certain elements, see how they work, and if it seems to be stable, we move into the next phase. And so I think with our first graphical update, this will be like the first time we start
Like
testing
grapes.
some of these
People are putting
elements.
grapes.
4K グレープスでめっちゃ
That's
書いてあるんだけど
I saw a comment that says 4 4K grapes. Thank you so much for that. That was hilarious.
あそこに 4K とかねなんか40万ポリゴンとかかけてるとそれこそ Q14 みたいにキャラクター全然表示できねえぞってことになっちゃうのでまあちょっとこれから詳しく説明はしますよ。
That's funny.
That's hilarious, but like imagine spending so much resources just to get the grapes to be 4K resolution. And imagine spending 400,000 polygons just to depict a piece of fruit. We won't have enough resources to render our characters on screen. But let me go into the details.
4K grapes.
そのグラフィックスアップデートは一気に、7.0 での投入を予定してます。
I'm sure we'll see a lot of memes
So
of that.
again, these graphical updates are intended to be implemented in 7.0.
まあその次期
Okay,
拡
so
張
they're
パ
working on
ッケ
it,
ージ
but
ま
they're
で
gonna
の
implement
間
it.
っていうのを、まあ、僕らのそのグラフィックスのアップデート
So
の
expansion
シェーダー追加したりとか、いろんなものを追加していくテスト期間だったりプログラム期間だったりそれに合わせたグラフィックスアセットのコンバート期間というふうにさせてください。
So until 7.0, this will be, again, our preparation period. So this is where our team will be testing out various additions to the graphical elements, including different shaders. We'll probably need to write more programs. This is where when we're going to be doing our asset conversions, etc.
でここが重要なんですけど、あくまでやっぱりマルチプレイのゲームであるっていうのをぜひ覚えておいてほしくて、やっぱり画面全体の美しさ、9番から申請した時に感じていただいたように、やっぱり総合的な美しさ、世界の美しさっていうのを追求していきますよと、コンセプトとしてはね。
And of course, one key point that we want players to understand is that this is still a multiplayer game, and so we want to strive for the aesthetic quality of the overall picture and looking at the sort of beauty or the element, aesthetically pleasing sort of overall picture.
だってこうまさにね発売されたホライゾンのさクオリティでさ動くと思われたら困るわけだよ。あれで俺たち300人とか描画しなきゃいけないんで、いやできはするんだけど、みんなの PC 動かないよ。
確か
And I see games like Horizon Forbidden West, and I don't want to get people to think that we'll raise our graphic quality to that. It's amazing, yes, but imagine having to render 300 different characters on screen at the same time at that quality. And it's not physically impossible, but then I don't think it's going to run on anybody's PC.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
そこは覚えといてね、みんなね。
So please keep that in mind.
ここをね、なんか勘違いされるのが一番怖い。
That's the scariest thing for people to kind of misconstrue.
で、当然なんですけど、アニメーションとか、まあその世界全体、画面全体の美しさっていうところにやっぱりアニメーションとかライティングシステムっていうのも大きく寄与していると思うので、このあたりもアップデートしていきます。
And of course, considering the sort of overall aesthetic, animation is going to be a key element we're looking at. Lighting is another element that we want to adjust as well.
まあ例えばアニメーションに使っている、よくねメモリがって言われますけど、メモリの割り当てをちょっと増やすことによって今までより長尺のこうエモートモーションが作れるとか、あとまあそのライトの数が増えることで実は潰れていたバックグラウンドのディティールがより見えてきて、リソースに手を加えなくても綺麗に見えるみたいなところもあるんで。
So what we mean by different updates to animation and lighting systems is, for example, I know people would automatically start talking about, oh yeah, memory issues with animation. So if we revisit some of the allocation of the memory for animation, it might allow us to create emotes with a longer animation loop, or with lighting, they're just having more lights than we had originally set up would allow for details that would have been sort of washed out or like not visible because of insufficient lighting to kind of show up. And so that will allow for an improvement in the graphical quality without us even having to adjust the elements that are already in the game.
まあ重要なところです。
はい。
スタンドアローンのゲームクオリティにはなりません。これをですね、皆さん頭にすり込むためにもですね、寝る前に必ず一度していただきたいぐらい。
And again, very important point. I want to stress again, the new graphics will not be comparable to those of standalone titles. This is again very important. I want you to remember it. I want you to repeat it before you go to bed. That's how much I want people to remember.
まあとはいえやっぱりグラフィックスいろいろ手を入れてパフォーマンスというかね、処理はより動作が重くなりはするので 7.0 では最低動作保証スペックの条件が変わるのは確定です、はい、ただできるだけ多くのスペックにね対応できるっていうところはこれまでのポリシーでもあるので、捨てずにやっていきたいと思ってます、
So that being said, we do want to update the graphics for sure, and so that means your processor might require more power in order to render these graphics properly or like efficiently. So we will probably have to update the system requirements for your machines and your PCs. We will try our best to accommodate for as many models of machines to accommodate with the changes, but we do want to make you aware that it is pretty much guaranteed that we will have to update the system requirements.
でやっぱり気になるプレイステーション4なんですけど、この 6.x 期間中に、先行投入すると思いますけど PS4 版の最適化をやっていきます。
And I know people are wondering about PlayStation 4 support as of 7.0. I think what's going to happen, and this will probably be done prior to the launch of 7.0, so sometime within the 6.x series, we do want to optimize the PS4 version for sure.
で、さらにですね、PC 版にあるようにグラフィックスオプションのカスタムっていうの PS4 版少ないんですけど、あれを増やしてですね、新しいその描画とか入れるとやっぱ重くなる部分があるので、重くても綺麗でいいやっていう人はオンにしてもらえばいいんだけど、オフにしてそのフレームレートを優先するみたいなことができるようにしていくので、PS4 のサポートっていうのも少なくとも 7.0 のタイミングではしっかりやりますので。
So, and on top of that, there are various graphical configurations that you can set up on the PC version. Like you can customize some of the like display options, and we understand that it's a bit lacking in the PS4 version. So we do want to implement options in the configuration so that you can select like prioritize frame rate, or if you want to, if you're okay with performance kind of dropping slightly, but still have the graphics performance, then you can select that option, whatnot. So I do want to assure you that we will continue supporting for PS4 at least until 7.0.
Wait, what?
Oh.
Wait, what?
What?
That's actually pretty good.
That's
Oh,
creepy.
What people's reactions are.
The face.
Oh, did you see that tweet some guy tweeted out about Horizon Forbidden West?
Some people think, oh,
Yeah.
is that me?
Oh, I didn't see the
Yeah.
tweet, but
About why she had a
なんか
beard,
さ、多分ね、
and then people were basically flaming him that
これ
he's
じゃ
never
ない
been within
よね、
10
多分
feet of
み
a
んな
woman. That's why he doesn't know
求めてるの。
about peach fuzz.
I don't think this is what we are looking for. This is not what we would desire.
なんか疲れた吉田って書かれてる。
Some people are saying this looks like a very tired Yoshida.
そう、なんか違うでしょ。
Yeah, but it kind of does feel awkward.
まあここまでリアルには
a
な
little bit
らんす。
okay, I was gonna say.
So we aren't going to be working to make it look this real.
まあいわゆるフォトリアルを追求していくと グラフィックスアップデートってこっちに行きがちなんですけど、おそらくファイナルファンタジー14の世界やキャラクターが気に入ってくださってる方、多分こっちを求めてはいないと思ってます。
They can go more like cartoony-ish, like
Some games, of course,
more
their
blended well.
intent is to lean towards that photorealistic depiction, and people tend to lean in this direction. But I think for those who enjoy the aesthetic of Final Fantasy XIV, this is not necessarily what we want to begin with.
では、今そのグラフィックスアップデートって実はテスト開発もスタートさせてるんですけど、テストスタートしてからまだ1ヶ月と1週間ぐらいなんですね。
So with these graphical updates, we are already starting testing actually, and it's been about a month and a week.
They gotta show us some.
なのでその1ヶ月と1週間ぐらいテストをして、まあこれだったらもう今出してもまあいけるだろうここまではと。まあこれ以上を目指すんだけど、まあ少なくとも一旦お見せしてもここまでは間違いなく大丈夫だよあると 7.0 でっていうのを用意してきたんでちょっと見ていきましょうか。
And so we are still very early in our testing stages, again, about a month or so testing, but we do have results that we're seeing that is,
Ooh, show us.
of course, we're going to aim higher than what we're going to be showing you, but
Okay, cool.
I think it's coming
Get an
out
idea
pretty
at least.
nicely, and we are relatively confident. So let us show you some of
I mean,
these
they got 2 years
images.
before it's gonna be implemented, so
こちらがですねテスト期間1ヶ月目のサンプルです。キャラクターですねまず。
definitely improvement.
So from first month of testing, so this is one of the samples.
これ左が今で、右がテクスチャーをハイレゾリューション化してます。髪の毛も含めて。で、あとシェーダーを、1枚入れてます。
And so what you're seeing is the current image on the left, and then on the right, we've made the textures high resolution, and we've added a layer of shaders.
あと、セルフシャドウって言って自分の髪の毛の影が顔に落ちた時、まあその自分のオブジェクトが自分に影を落とすのをセルフシャドウって言うんですけど、そこも調整してるので、結構ねセルフシャドウ実はすごい気になってて、カットシーンとかでも。
And one
Yeah,
thing
that's
that
a
we
pretty good
did pay
difference.
attention to was the self shadow, or whenever there's like an object that drops the shadow on yourself. Especially if you look at the bangs and the shadow it casts underneath it. That was something that I wanted to address looking at the cutscenes in the past.
でまあこれ1ヶ月目のサンプルなので、もっと
Yo,
上
your
目指
stole
せ
is
ると
gonna
は
even
思っ
look
てるんです
better.
けど、動作保証あまりにも重くならないっていう意味では、
This is
今
a
一旦
buff.
お見せできるのはここまで。まあこの上さらにいろんなことをやった上で最適化していって、まあやれるより高いところは目指していこうかなと思ってます。
So of course we do want to strive for even better, but at this time I think from 1 month of testing and making sure that the game itself runs properly, I think this is what we can show at this time, and then we'll continue to test and we'll continue to sort of improve and then apply optimization.
まあいわゆるヒロシと呼ばれてる彼でやるとこんな感じです。
Of course, our Derplander.
でちょっとミコッテのサンプルです。
Well,
Here's a sample of the Mikote.
まあ戦月賞のボケ具合が、まあなくなったりですね、髪の毛の柔らかいそのカールの印象とかってちゃんと出てるのと、まあセルフシャドウがボケてないんでね。
oh yeah, your stole gonna look good.
Of course, you may notice the face paint. The war paint is a lot crisper now. And then, as mentioned earlier, self shadow
Take my
is
money, as
nicer. I
people
think
say.
it's brings out the softness of her face.
まあこれがだいたい1ヶ月目だっていうのをぜひ認識しておいてください。
Hey, there's me.
Again, just to remind you, this is
Square nose.
after testing for about a month.
1 month, not too bad. Chad, that's me.
はい。まあこの方向性で良さそうよね、やっぱりね。みんなのコメント見てると。
looking at everybody's comments, it seems like we are on the right track in terms of like the direction we want to take it to.
そうですね。
Yeah, I think it's really good.
ララフェルがね、一番難しいんですよ。
No. Get him out of here.
And the Lalafell was actually quite challenging.
Yeah, the Lalafell.
なんかリアルにするところがなくて。
There are no areas really to make it quote unquote realistic, you know.
まあでも髪の毛綺麗になって、目の周りはものすごく鮮明になって、まあキャラメイクしておけばね、もちろんいろんなパターン作れるとは思うんですけど。
But I
Tell
think
by the eyes,
the
though, it's
hair
really
has
good.
definitely gotten more defined, and
And the
then
hair,
the
yeah, hair's really good.
eyes has become
The
very
ears are pretty good too.
crisp, and it looks a lot more alive, so to
It's
speak.
polish,
And
is what I would
with
say.
being able to
More polish.
character create, I think it'll have like it will allow for players for a broad range.
そうね、肌の感じをどこまでなんだろう、本当にツルツルにするのかララフェルは、こう少しそうは言ってもちゃんと肌っていう感じを出すのかは、結構ね調整が難しいところだとは思ってるので、ただ皆さんが求めてるであろう方向性は理解してるつもりなので、しっかり所属ごとにですね調整しながらいきたいなと思ってます。
And it's still a challenge to figure out how do we
Role-playing's gonna be insane.
depict the surface of their skin. Like, do we make it completely like flawless, spotless, or do we actually give it some texture to make it look like skin? We want to believe that we understand
It's
what
gonna be
the
more like
players are looking
customization,
for, but
maybe
it
then?
is something that we still need to kind of explore.
Like fake characters.
まあなんて言ったってね、11年も皆さんと一緒にこのゲーム作ってきてるんで、
That's the hairstyles will be a lot
皆さんが求める方向は理解してるつもりではあ
Like
ります。
unlocking
は
them.
い。
But again, we've been with you guys for about 11 years at this time, so we want to believe that we understand what the players are looking for.
ですいません、ちょっとテスト1ヶ月目ということでですね、キャラクターサンプルとしては以上になります。またなんだろう、途中でね、ファンフェスのタイミングとかあればまた途中経過とかね、お知らせしていけたらなと思ってます。
But it's definitely an improvement. That's for sure.
So yeah, because we are still in the early stages of testing, as for character samples, that is all that we have at this time. We're hoping that we can continue to update everybody on the status. Perhaps maybe next time we can do it at like a fan festival or something like that.
じゃあ改めてですね、そのキャラクター、まずそのグラフィックス、第一次グラフィックスアップデートでキャラクターに関する表現のアップデート項目をお知らせしておきます。
Okay, so just wanted to recap all of the different elements that we look to update for our first set of graphical updates in terms of characters.
まずですね、全体的にテクスチャーを高解像度にしていきます。髪とか肌とか、それから今日ちょっとねご紹介できてないんですけど、装備品のテクスチャーの解像度も上げていきます。
So first one would be higher resolution textures, which includes hair, skin, and we weren't able to show any examples today, but we do want to improve the textures of the gear as well.
That'd be nice.
で、さらにですね、これはシェーダーと呼ばれる
I think the gear array looks really good, but it can get even better.
処理になってくるんですけど、質感の表現というのを向上させていきます。例えば肌、
fabric.
それから装備品の金属部分、あと布って、布用のシェーダーっていうのが実はあって、Q14 では入れてたんですけど、重すぎて外してるんですね。そろそろいけるだろうということで、布がもう少し滑らかに布っぽく見えるっていうシェーダーなどを今、研究トライしているところです。
And then the next item, and this is relating to various shader processing, which is improved material qualities, of course, skin, metal, and fabric. It's interesting because in the 1.0 or like the old version of Final Fantasy XIV, there was a shader or like a process that was just applied to fabric so that it would look the texture quality would look like fabric, but it was too heavy of a load on processing, so we had to remove it in the relaunch. But we're testing various ways to see if we can apply something like that to make Fabric a bit more, well, smoother and more Fabric-like. And we're still kind of researching and trying out various methods.
そしてですね、キャラクターに対してのライティングとシャドウの強化というのもやっていきます。特にね、見栄えに直結しやすいこうセルフシャドウに関してはすごくずっと気になってたんで。
And then again, lighting and shadow, better lighting and shadow effects, especially for the player's shadows.
まあ、さっきもお話しましたけど、できるだけプレイヤーの皆さんの今のキャラクターを持ってるイメージっていうのが変わらないように、綺麗になったな俺のキャラって思ってもらえるようにしていきたいと思ってます。
Of course, again, our goal is to make it so that the overall appearance of player characters will be altered as little as possible. We want you guys to see the graphical updates and think, oh wow, my character's become pretty.
で注意点が2つあって、
はい、
まず一つ信じられない数のアセットがあるので、あれを 7.0 までに全部コンバートするのは不可能です。
So 2 points of caution. The gear, we mentioned about updating the material quality of gear, but you know, there's an incredible, unbelievable amount of gear available for all of our player characters. And considering we'd have to convert them all, we will not be able to get through converting all of the gear by the 7.0 timing.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
なので、7.0 で新しく実装されている装備っていうのは、すべて今回のグラフィックスアップデートを経た内容で作っていきます。なので、クオリティがより高いもの。
I think they've got enough resources that they can actually put it into.
So any gear that is implemented from 7.0 will have gone through the process of the updated graphics. So of course those will be of the higher quality.
ただし、できる限りこうプレイヤーの皆さんがミラプリとかをしておしゃれによく使っているものに関してはちょっと優先的にできる限り対応をして、またパッチ 7.x シリーズで徐々にその古い装備っていうのも新しい仕様に少しずつこう対応していけるようにっていうふうに思ってますので、ちょっと数年がかりで全体が上がっていくことにはなるかと思いますが、よろしくお願いします。
But we understand that there are certain glamours that people use often, so we want to look at those and try to get those done with a higher priority in terms of like which to get to. And throughout the 7.x series is when we will address the rest of the previous equipment or gear. So I'm afraid it will take at least a few years to address all of the different textures.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
あと NPC です。今回ね、プレイヤーのキャラクターみんな
For sure they can't get it all in one batch.
NPC 全員も無理だと思っていて、7.0 までには。
The other thing are the NPCs. I know we talked about updating the player characters and the graphics on those, but I'm afraid we're not going to be able to address all of the NPCs by 7.0.
申し訳ないんだが、クオリティの高くなった NPC とまだなんと順番が回ってこない NPC っていうのが出てしまうと思うんですけど、ちょっとそれも許していただけると助かります。
So I'm terribly sorry to say this, but you may start seeing NPCs that have gone through the graphical updates and those that have not gone through the updates. But please, your understanding would be appreciated.
これをね全部やれって言うと、いやもうじゃあグラフィックスアップデートやめましょう、無理です無理ですってなっちゃうんで、ちょっとちぐはぐっていうのが出ちゃうタイミングがあるとは思うんですけど、それをやっぱり承認していかないといつまで経ってもできないと思ってるので、ちょっと許していただけると。なのでちょっとイルベルドはまだ後でいいかみたいな。
And if I were to tell my team that, okay, we need to do everything, then people are just going to throw in the towel and be like, no, this is impossible. So I'm afraid there will be times at which not all of the NPCs will have gone through their graphical updates, and it might
Yeah, it
look a
takes a long
little
time.
disoriented or disjointed. But if I don't allow for that to happen, we won't be able to get to it. So again, if you could forgive us for going through that, that would be appreciated. Like, your bird might not get his graphical update as quickly as maybe like the Sultana, but
テレジアデレジはっていうお声が結構あるんですよ。ただですね、残念な、なんとテレジアデレジってプレイヤーのなんだろう、キャラメイクで作られてるんで、僕らが手を下さずともあいつ勝手にクオリティ上がってしまう可能性が高い。
Some people are asking, oh, but what about Telegy Adelegy? And I realize his expression is part of the parts that you can select when you're creating your character. So because we're updating the player character facial parts, Telegy Adelegy is going to have his graphical updates already. So he may be an exception to those NPCs.
まあというわけでプレイヤーベースで組まれてるものはね必然的にそうなるんですけど、まあナナモさんとかはねやった方がいいかなとは思ってるんですけど、ちょっとまだ精査まではしきれてないので、ちょっとそういう状態が出るとは思うんですけど、よろしくお願いします。
So yeah, any characters that are built based on facial parts or body parts that are available for players to utilize will probably be updated simultaneously with like the player character graphics. But there are certain key NPCs that we're also looking at. Maybe the Sultana, but we have yet to sort of assess, and we will continue to sort of explore the options.
でまあちょっと今日お見せしたのは繰り返しになりますが、テストをスタートしてまだ1ヶ月ちょっとのデータなので、さらなるですねクオリティの向上に向けて他の種族も含めてですねテスト続行していきます。いずれ装備とかもねこんな感じになるよというのもお見せできればと思ってます。
But yeah, again, what we showed you was only about a month or so of testing. So we're hoping to provide you with more updates as they come in. Perhaps the other races, perhaps we can provide you an update with gear, etc. in the not so far future.
で、そうだな。
Pretty cool, pretty cool.
あとは結構コメントであったんですけど、装備の干渉なんとかしてほしいって、あれは正直どうにもならないです。物理エンジンを入れて、計算でかわすしかないんですけど、それをやるとやっぱ動かなくなっちゃうと思うので、あとやっぱり装備の干渉を許可してる僕が、もういいとこれは割り切ってくれって言ってるから今のペースでそのアセットギアが報酬が装備がリリースできてるっていうところもあるので、努力はしますが根本的にオフラインのゲームのようにはならないので、はい、そこはすいませんご了承ください。
And I'm also seeing comments about can you do something about like gear or equipment or like player characters like body parts interfering with the graphics of gear, equipped gear. And I'm afraid that is something that we cannot address fully. We would have to put in a physics engine in there, and that would cause for some of the characters to kind of not move properly anymore. And plus, I, as the director, have allowed for those imperfections to my team. I'm afraid we're just moving on with it, or else we won't be able to keep the pace in releasing these different gear and the different designs that is available. So I'm afraid we are unable to address it fully to match something that of a standalone game. Sorry.
さあでは次はですね、ちょっと BG マップに関わるところもテスト1ヶ月ちょっとのサンプル持ってきました。
We have more samples though. This time it's for various backgrounds and like map elements.
まずこれは単純にテクスチャーとかに何も手を入れずに配置できるライトの数を増やすっていうテストのサンプルです。
So this first image is a test of just simply the number of lights we can place in a certain scene without it touching any of the textures or surfaces.
配置ライト数をですね、複数増やすとこんな感じになります。
So we just added a few more lights in a particular scene, and what you see is in the right side of the image.
ライトがですね、遠くに左側ね、1灯しか焚けないので、ちょっと見てほしいのは、手前側にあるデスクに影がほぼ落ちてないのが、右側複数ライトによってちゃんと影が出るようになってるでしょ。
So if you look at the one on the left, we were only able to place one light source in the scene, but in the picture on the right, we were able to place multiple lights to give it a more realistic look. And as you can see, the desk is now casting a shadow.
まあ当然分かりやすく上の方にライトさらに1灯追加されてるので、まああそこまで作り込んでたのにライトが当たらないことによって全部黒で潰れちゃってたのが、まあ、しっかり見えてくるようになるので、これね多分プレイじっくり見ていないとというか受ける雰囲気が変わるので、これによって。
And of course, I think one of the key changes that you can see is because we were able to place a light directly on top, you're able to see some of the details that would have been kind of hidden behind a shadow. And so I think with allowing for more lights to be placed, it will kind of give you a better impression of some of the atmosphere in some of these locations.
でさらにですね、こちら今の現在の状態のティターニアですね。
Next, you see Titania in their current state.
でこれはシャドウです。シャドウのテストをお見せします。
So this is where we tested out how shadows appear.
まあ影に使ってるテクスチャーの解像度と計算を上げていくので、これぐらいくっきり見えていくようになると思います。
So this is where we tested the texture as well as the calculation formula behind how we're displaying the shadow underneath Titania. And we believe that we were able to improve the quality and the resolution up to what you see on the right image.
さらにですね、これ複数ライトも置いてみてるので、もう今の14だと左の環境しか作れないんですけど、複数ライトさらにカラー変えたりしていくことで、右のようにね、かなり複雑なライティングの絵作りっていうのができていくようになります。
Crazy.
And as you can see, we have multiple lights again in this updated picture, and then plus we put some colored lighting. So the background is exactly the same, and it was actually quite intricately built, but by having these different sort of lighting available to shine on it, you can see the complex details that was part of the structure.
ちなみにこれ左のティタニアのストーリー的には左の雰囲気がいいなって言ってるコメントがあるんですけど、はい、実はこの状態をさらにグレードアップさせたバージョンを BG チーム作ってきたんです、サンプルとして。ただ開発者目線で見ないと分かんないからライトの色を赤とかにして複数ライトが混ざってるっていう環境を作ってくれって言って僕がわざわざデザイナーがセンスよく統一してきたものをばらしたんで、デザイナーのセンスじゃないので、これね僕のプレゼン用だと思ってください。デザイナーの名誉のために言っときます。デモ用ですね。はい。
One thing I do want to clarify, because somebody pointed out they liked the look of the original Titania, where it has that sort of mood with all the muted colors. Yoshida I want to point out that this is the developers actually brought to me an example of what improved graphics would look like with that stayed within the color palette of the original picture, but that's very much in the developer's perspective, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference of what has improved. That's why I had requested my designer to intentionally place red lights, something that's more obvious, just to show an example. So don't worry, this is not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to like destroy the atmosphere. The designer was very mindful about keeping the tone of the story, but I wanted a more like overt example. So just wanted to clarify that.
でここでちょっとね特に注目してほしいのが画面右の奥上の方に見えてるステンドグラスのあたりをちょっと見ていただきたいんですけど。
And one part that I do want to point out, if you look at the upper part of the image, where the stained glass is,
これ左と右、マップのポリゴンは何も変わらないんですね。テクスチャー解像度も変わってないです。
So just reiterating that we have not changed any of the polygons that are in the map layout. We did not improve any of the textures here.
なのでライトを変える複数置けるようになるだけで、実は BG アーティストたちがこだわって作っていた箇所っていうのがより明確にちゃんと見えるようになるんですよ。左は全部影で潰れてるんですけど、もともとちゃんと凹凸あるんですね。
And so this is what I'm trying to show with this image is that by being able to place multiple lights in a scene, we are able to showcase the details that our background artists have put into the structure. So above these stained glass, you might see these sort of like tiered sort of molding on top. And the picture on the left, it makes it unnoticeable because it's kind of drowned in the shadows. So by being able to place multiple lights, we're able to accentuate those details that our background team has put into the structure.
ちなみにバックグラウンドアーティストたちはライトの追加をやっていこうって言ったらめっちゃ喜んでました。
So when we were talking about adding multiple lights, the background team definitely had a very strong reaction to that.
よかった。
さあで次はですね、こちらは金属表現を、その質感を上げますというサンプルになります。
So next sample we want to show you is how we depict like the texture of the metal.
こちらもですね、デザイナーの趣味というよりはですね、悪趣味なぐらい変えてくれって言ってるので、それをご承知おきください。
And of course, this again is supposed to be an example. And so I asked my designer to make it very gaudy at this point. So please understand it is not necessarily the designer's choice.
まあもともとやりたかったけどシェーダーがなくてできなかったので、まあこれぐらいゴールドをちゃんとやっていきますよと。
So up until now, we didn't have the proper shaders to apply, but we would love to improve the look of metallic surfaces. For example, gold here.
It is a big difference.
すごいですよね。
コメントで吉田の家じゃんって書いてあるんだけど、俺こんなんだったらもう仕事してないわ。
You give me that gill.
People are saying, "Oh, is this Yoshida's house?" And I was like, "No, if I were that rich, I wouldn't be working."
これ怖いもんで、今まで我々は左を金だと信じてまいりましたけど、なんかもうブラスにしか見えないですよね。Yeah, actually, we trusted left side screen is gold up until now, but now it only see brass, not gold, no more.
まあこういう形で金属の質感強化っていうのもやっていきます。まあこれはねとても分かりやすい例じゃないかなと思います。
Thank you for that. But yeah, again, we're trying to make improvements to the material quality, so the look of metallic surfaces as well.
さらにですね、続いてはマップに使えるメモリっていうのも、上限を上げてあげようと思っているので、それによってですね、より多くのオブジェクトが入っていくようになっていきます。
And next was to look at the memory resources allocated to rendering a particular area on a map. And I'm looking to raise that sort of cap so that we can place more objects in a particular field.
まあこれ左側が現在よくちょっとマトシャと出会ったりするところですけど、こんな感じになってます。これ現在ですね。
So the left side, you may remember your first encounter with Matsuya.
で、それがですね、今回このぐらいまではいけるだろうと。
Wow.
And with testing, we are seeing that we could possibly place more objects like these.
左と比べてですね、やっぱりまず注目点としてはその1枚のループで作られてたその階段状になってる部分っていうのが、それぞれ素材違いをしかもこう組み合わせで、 ずらして配置したりすることによってこう使い込まれた感とかより出せていける、このあたりはね実はすごく大きいと思います。
And so in the left, you may notice that it's just a repeat layered on, like a repeat layered on top of each other. But in the updated graphics, you can see that we are able to place objects not exactly like on top of each other, but like you can shift it by a little bit. It'll allow for a more realistic depiction of the area has been in use. So this is actually quite it helps with like the immersion.
であとはその床ですね、実は床の上にもう一枚テクスチャーを重ねてブレンドさせることでですね、床のこうひび割れだったり、細かい、今だとねメモリがないので巨大な床を1枚貼ってどうにかところなんですけど、そこをさらにこうスカン上げていけるようになる。
And then the floor or the ground with the graphical update would be able to add another layer on top to give it more texture and kind of blend it in. So like cracks in the ground. Previously,
one on the left of the stairs looks like it's floating.
So we would just have to paste one giant floor and deal with it. But with the graphical updates, I think we'll be able to improve on the texture quality as well.
そしてですね、続いてがちょっと BG でお知らせする最後になるんですが、
Next is, I believe, the last set of samples that I've seen for the background elements.
こちらです。我々開発チーム最大の敵、自動草って呼んでるやつ。
So this is one of our pet peeves, arch nemesis, I should say. These are like these automatically generated grass.
これがですね、カットシーンのチェックをやってるとですね、割り込んでくるんですよ。自動で生やされるんで。多分カットシーン作ったスタッフの時には生えてなかったんでしょうけど、僕がチェックする時は生えててですね、このジャギジャギがすごい入ってくるんですよ、カメラに。
And this is so, it takes away from cutscenes when it barges in. I'm sure when the cutscene team is creating the composition, they don't see the grass because this is just automatically generated after the fact. But sometimes it's like so close up and it's so pixelated, and that pixelation is it bothered me very much.
今回もね、実はちょっと裏話ですけど、
はい、
まあエルピスで
Damn grass.
ヘルメスにね、メーティオンにせがまれてエルピスの花をこう見せるシーン、夜空でねあるじゃない。でヘルメスがこう仮面を外す、あそこがですね、何度チェックしてても自動草が入ってくるんですよ。で頭にきたんでもう BG 班に頼んでこの辺もう草生やさない設定にしてくれって
あ、なるほど、除草剤を撒いてしまったんですね。
So one behind the scenes comment I wanted to make when I was looking at the cutscene in Elpis, sorry spoilers, but Hermes, when he's talking to Meteon about, oh, I want to show you the flowers in Elpis, and he removes his mask, and the grass automatically generates. And it gets in the way. So I got so mad. I told the background team, like, can you make it so that you don't have grass being generated in this part of the ground?
で、それがですね、今まだテスト中ですが、こんな感じになります。はい。
But that will be updated hopefully. Again, we're still testing, but this is a sample image of what it could look like.
で、まあ種類もね、複数持てるようになるので、これね、草原から上は何も手入れてないんですよ。向こうに見える木とか、全く今のままなんですけど、まあこんなに変わるですよね。
So and plus we are able to generate a variation of different grass or plants, and so while we haven't added or modified anything in the background, like the trees and the field in the background have not been modified, the look of it is different because of how we can process these automated grass.
これはですね、自動草そのものを入れ替えるので、申請から行月まで全てのマップで自動で生えてる草がきれいになります。
And for this update, we will be replacing the system that generates these grass or plant life. And so this should be applied throughout all of the areas from A Realm Reborn.
Grass hype, dude, grass hype.
さあ、ではバックグラウンド、実はねまだあるんですけど、ちょっとどんな表現バックグラウンドを上げていくかというのをお知らせしておきます。
We've done various other testings in terms of background elements, but allow me to summarize again.
まず先ほど、サンプルでも見ていただきましたライト配置数の追加、質感凹凸表現ね、雰囲気の強化っていうのがこれによって、行われます。
So again, we are going to be doing additional lighting points, so improve visual quality, depth, and immersion.
そしてですね、影の高解像度化、影のテクスチャーを高解像度にすることでですね、ちらつかなくなったりですね、影がよりメリハリが効くようになります。
And then higher resolution shadows, and so we'd be improving the texture of the shadow and how it's depicted, so that it will allow for like flickering, decreased flickering.
ちょっと嘆きの海のマップを思い出していただきたいんですけど、あそこ実は雰囲気を宇宙空間にするために、ライトの距離をすごい遠くして、全体の暗さをこう締めるようなことをやってるんですけど、結果そうすると影がものすごく長く表示されるんだけど、テクスチャー解像度が低いがゆえにすごいじらついたりボケたりする箇所が結構多いんですよ。ただ雰囲気を優先したんで我慢してたんですけど、そういうところもですね、より綺麗にちらつかずに影が出てくるようになると思います。
So if you would recall Mare Lamentorium and how we were trying to depict or make it seem like you're in outer space and make sure that the lighting had been placed in a very distant location so that we emphasize that sort of darkness that surrounds you.
Hopefully I have a 6.1 release.
Because of that, whenever you're on the moon, your shadow gets to be very long, but because the shadow textures were not optimal, you would see frequent areas that would cause the shadows to flicker or it could get blurry. So with the graphical update, we're hoping to improve so that those shadows would come out a lot crisper.
そして質感表現の向上です。これもシェーダーでですね、金属とか布とか、それ以外のシェーダーも今検討してます。
And then, of course, improve textures, which includes metals, fabrics, and we're also trying to consider what other elements can we improve.
AR needs a lot of work.
そして最後にご覧いただいた自動配置植物の強化、高解像度にしたりですね、あと植生の種類を増やしたりしていきます。
Lastly, more and better auto-generated greenery, which is increased resolution, variety, and etc.
で、画面全体にフィルター効果として非常に重要なアンビエントオクルージョンっていう機能だったり、フォグ、いわゆる霧をこう重ねるみたいな、それをフォグって呼ぶんですけど、これらに関しては今テストをしてるんですけど、まだちょっとサンプルをお見せできない状態です。
And we're also considering other effects or filters that would apply to the overall screen, including ambient occlusion and fog effects. Now, those are still being tested, but we couldn't produce results that we can present at this time.
That's fine.
めちゃくちゃ雰囲気出るし、めちゃくちゃクオリティ上がるんですけど、画面全体にパフォーマンスの影響を与えるものなので、慎重にテストをして、しっかりこれだったら大丈夫だろう、その皆さんが極端に PC を買い替えたりとかしなくても、あとオプションでね、ちょっと切ることで軽くできるとかっていうのをちゃんと用意した上で、ここまでやれますよっていうのをちゃんとお見せできる。まだちょっと1ヶ月じゃそこまではいけないので、ただこれらも強化はしていきますので、また続報をね、お待ちいただければと思います。
And we totally understand that it will give it a different sense of atmosphere, or it would really improve the mood if we had those kinds of textures applied or those filters applied, but it does affect the overall performance of the game. So we will need to test it very carefully for sure. So we want to explore our options, but we also want to make sure that we are at a state where we're comfortable and not requiring for so much resources that players would have to like update their PC to an extreme, or be able to provide an option to shut it off if you want to optimize your performance. So I'm afraid we're not able to show you anything as of like a month or so of testing, but we're hoping to bring you updates further down the line. So yeah, if you could please stay tuned for that.
さてでは、グラフィックス第1次グラフィックスアップデートの、今日お伝えできる範囲としては、ここまでとさせていただきます。
What next is roadmap?
Okay, so in terms of the graphical updates and the preparations that we're making for it, I think is all that I have for today's presentation.
さあでは続いて、3つ目なんですが、引き続き大きなアップデートこれまでと変わらずですね、適切なスケジュールでお届けしていきますよというお話です。
So yeah, we will continue to provide regular updates on an appropriate schedule.
せっかくの機会ということでですね、ちょっと 6.1 から 6.5 まで現状決まっているものでお知らせできそうなものをお知らせしておこうと思います。
So I would like to share information that we know that we're going to have from 6.1 through 6.5.
まずパッチ 6.1 なんですけど、こちらねリリースタイミングが読み切れないと思うんですけど、皆さん4月には出します。はい。
So 6.1 series. I understand that it's still kind of hard to see when it's coming, but we are looking at April at this time.
当然ですが、メインクエストのアップデートっていうのは 6.1 から 6.5 まで新しい冒険をお届けしていこうと思ってます。
Of course, part of those updates will include the updates to the main scenario. We will have a new story with each patch installment.
そしてですね、全世界から帰ってこいと言われていた、事件や紳士ね、ついに帰還でございます。ヒルディブランドの行月編が、始まります。
Of course, we've heard many people ask for him to come back. This gentleman extraordinaire, Mr. Hildebrand, will be making his return.
新しいサブクエストシリーズとしてですね、タタルの大繁盛商店というのが、連続として始まります。
And then, of course, a new series of side quests named Tataru's Grand Endeavor.
ちなみにヒルディブランドが最後に目撃されたのはパッチ 5.3 で実装された漆黒決戦ノルブランドでエリディブスによって召喚された中に確率でたまに出てくるんでね、あいつID の中に、あそこですね、最後に目撃されてるのは。
I believe the last last time Hildebrand was seen was in patch 5.3, the Hero's Gauntlet. And this is a random occurrence, so you may or may not have seen him. But when you are doing your Warrior of Light battle, he is one of the people that is summoned.
さあ、どんな冒険とかね、珍道中になるのか、ぜひ楽しみにお待ちください。
But yeah, we hope you enjoy whatever odd adventures that he gets into.
まあどんどんいきます。パッチ 6.1 まだまだあってですね、アライアンスレイド、ミソロジー・オブ・レオルゼア、12子にまつわる物語ですね、スタートします。
Continuing with patch 6.1 updates, we will have our Alliance raid, Myths of the Realm, part 1, implemented. This is going to delve into or touch upon the mythos of the 12 gods.
そして新 PVP のクリスタルコンフリクトというのが、スタートして蛮族クエストアルカソーダラ続編があって、ゼツは本当お待たせしました、レイド大好き勢、本当お待たせしたんですが最新ゼツリリースします。
And so next is a new PvP, the Crystal and
Very
Conflict.
excited.
We will have a new Beast Tribe quest, or like a new tribal quest, Arkasodara tribe quest in their dailies, and then a new ultimate content. Thank you so much for your patience. Our new ultimate duty will be implemented as of 6.1.
ゲームはねアルテマになりますが、もうバランスチェックも終わっていて、結構むずいですよ。
And of course, we will finally be reopening the Unreal battles. Ultima's Bane will be what's coming for the next battle. We are currently testing this out, but it's quite challenging.
アルテマウェポンってもともと結構初期に時間のない中で作られていて、IL が結構みんな上がってるんで、いろいろギミック無視できたりとか、被弾してもそんなになんですけど、レベル90でバランス取り直してきっちりアイテムレベル確定させたらね、やっぱ面白いしやりごたえあるなこれって感じでした。
Of course, when we first designed the Ultima Weapon fight, it was done in a rush, and then by now I think people have raised their item level, so even if you take damage it's not as bad. But with the Unreal battles, we have adjusted the boss fight so that it matches that of a level 90 player. So and we've kind of finalized the item level, so testing it out, I enjoyed it. It was a very interesting battle and it's very challenging for sure.
でも今ちょっとコメントであったんだけど、蛮族クエストっていう蛮族っていう呼び方やめたいなっていうコメントがあって、確かにそうだね。ちょっと考え直そう。メモっといてもらっていいかしら。はい。表現変えていきましょう。
There was a comment about the Beast Tribe quest, and it seems to not be very favorable to call it that. I know we're trying to shift it to say tribe quests, or like we're just calling it by the tribal name in the English, but we are going to try to figure out a better way to phrase it.
そして絶なんですけど、まあめっちゃ調整続いてるんですけど、多分一番難しいと思うんで、やる方は覚悟をしておいてください。
And I want to backtrack a little bit to the ultimate duty, the new ultimate duty, and we're balancing right now and making adjustments, but it's quite difficult. So if you're up for a challenge, that's fantastic. But yeah, it's going to take some. It's going to again be challenging.
実は 6.11 かな。
Oh, I'm sorry. Ultimate would be not 6.1 but 6.11, so it's probably not at the same time as the major patch.
メインシナリオをやったり、ハウジングの抽選に応募したりとかすると思うので、2週間空けて
What, a week or two usually after then? 2 weeks maybe?
We are hoping that players would enjoy the main scenario first, and then 6.1 is also when we open up the Ishgard housing, so I'm sure people will want to sign up for like housing plots. So we're going to wait 2 weeks after the launch of the major patch and then release the ultimate duty.
まだまだあってですね、6.1、さっきお伝えしたメインクエスト ID のフェイス対応 2.0 半やって、それ以外のID もちょっとグラフィックスの調整とかいろいろやってます。
So continuing on with the 6.1 series updates, so the main quest, the trust system for A Realm Reborn patch 2.0 main scenario dungeons.
そして新しいリワードシステムとしてですね、キャラクターカードっていうのの、システム実装が、ドーンと始まります。
And then a new calling card style UI. So this is going to be a new reward type system that we plan to start implementing.
まあこの辺の詳しい内容はね、3月4日からのまたパッチ 6.1 特集パート1、パート2の方でお伝えしていきます。そしてお待たせしたロスガルの、新髪型対応がスタートとなります。
So for this calling card style UI, this is something that we'll cover in our next two live letters. There's one definitely planned on March the 4th, and we'll do like a 6.1 feature part 1 and part 2. So we'll delve into details at that time. So next item would be new hairstyles for Hrothgar. Thank you so much for your patience on this.
Nice.
そしてハウジング、イシェガールドハウジングが開き、お得意様取引はなんとアルフィノ・アルゼンのお母様がエメリアンス編となります。
The next two items is the opening of Imperium or Ishgard housing, and then custom deliveries. You get to meet with Alphino and Alizé's mom, Amelians.
新 PVP はいつですか、またちょっと PLL で詳しく言いますけど、6.15 を予定してます。はい。
We had a question about when is the new PvP going to go live. Again, we'll cover this in the upcoming other PLLs, but we are looking at 6.15 timing for that.
それ以外にもですね、透滅戦など多数のものが、透滅戦名前言えないですけど、ありますんで、ぜひご期待ください。ここまでが6.1 のざっくり概要です。
And of course, new trials, we can't say what, but other assorted updates are planned for the 6.1 series.
そして続いて 6.2 ですが、こんな感じになってて、一番の注目はやっぱりお知らせしていた無人島開拓が 6.2 からスタートになります。
So next up is the 6.2 series. This is one of the large, like the anticipated content, I believe, is the Island Sanctuary. That's when we're going to start opening this up.
昨日全体を一通りチェックしました。めちゃくちゃでかいんで。
6.2.
だいぶね、
Island Sanctuary. There it is.
I had the opportunity to check the overall sort of content yesterday, and
6.2, what, like fall?
Quite large scale, but I think it's coming along nicely.
またちょっと今日は時間がないのであれですけど、詳しく説明する機会は取ろうと思いますが、基本的には外の世界と全く異なるそこだけで完結できる遊びになってますし、ゆっくり本当にゆるくやれるので。楽しみに待っていただけると嬉しいです。
So I'm afraid we don't have the time to cover it today, but we will take the time at another opportunity so that we can explain the details of this. But it is going to be a different sort of area that you can enjoy, and it's a very self-contained sort of content that you can enjoy.
で2.x 残り新生オルゼアの 2.x シリーズのメインクエスト ID を全部対応し、想定編にも突入します。あとは武器強化コンテンツの新しいシリーズをスタートしますとかですね。
So going back to the earlier bullet points, we will be applying the trust system for the 2.x main scenario dungeons, maybe partially into Heavensward. It says here.
そうだ、もうね、多すぎて入れてないんですけど、ミラプリの拡張もね、6.1 から第1弾始まるんで、言っときます、そういうの。
Oh, we also want to mention, we will be expanding on glamours. Glamour, ミラプリの、ごめんなさい、ミラプリはグラマープリズムの方でしょうか。
言
えない感じですか。
第1弾は、プレート増やすをやっていく、まず第1弾。
So glamour related updates. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure how to phrase it, so I squeezed it out of Yoshida-san. We will be addressing and expanding upon glamour plates as part of the first glamour related updates in 6.1 series.
ちょっと全部書ききれないけど、いつもの討伐透滅戦のノーマルと極があるとかいうのは、いつも通りやっていくので、その辺は書かれてなくてもあると思ってもらえると助かります。
And of course, we will have whatever content that you can expect in a patch update, so like new trials, etc. It's not written here because we couldn't fit it all in the slides, but yes.
収納数増やすトライもしてるから、ごっそりどっかのタイミングで増やします。
Yes, it's just the roadmap.
And we're also looking at like how to expand upon like the number of sets stored. So we're hoping to find an opportunity to do that update, like not an overhaul, but like an update on that as well.
そしてですね、さりげなく書かれてる新しいこの 6.2 から新しいバトルコンテンツ、タイプが全くこれまでと違うコンテンツを今開発中です。
And then the fourth bullet point, it's just kind of snuck in there as part of like the updates, but it's a new thing that we're trying to do. It's a dungeon with variable difficulty.
これ難易度可変ダンジョンって今開発コードネームなんですけど、1人から4人でチャレンジできて、1人で行く、2人で行く、3人で行く、4人で行くっていうので、自動的にそれに合わせて難易度がコントロールされるっていうチャレンジが
probably gonna be something just interesting. Like, maybe harder. I don't know.
The code name that we're using here is like Criterion Dungeons, but so you can attempt this with 1 to 4 people, and what makes it variable is that if you go in, depending on the number of people you go in with, so 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, the difficulty sort of varies. It will automatically scale, so it's like a content where players can sort of challenge themselves.
まあこちらも組み上がってはきてるんですけど、まだ調整いろいろチェックやってたりするんで、まあ6点に近づいてきたらしっかり特集していきたいと思います。
It is coming along nicely, but and we're still performing checks on the content. So please stay tuned for new information as they become available when we can talk about 6.2.
そして 6.3 になるとですね、メインクエストの ID フェイス対応が争点編をここで完了させる予定です。
And then moving into 6.3, so we continued to add more trust NPCs. We should be able to address the remaining main scenario instanced dungeons in Heavensward.
2 ultimates?
でかいのはですね、世界中からですね、ディープダンジョンシリーズの新しいのがやりたいというお声をたくさん頂戴していたので、今企画をやっている最中です。6.3 で、ディープダンジョンシリーズの第3弾実装予定です。
And then players from around the world had asked about when do we get a new deep dungeon? And so we are in the planning phases at this time. We're hoping to launch the 3rd in the series of deep dungeons at 6.3 series timing.
そしてですね、すでに、開発スタートして進んでるんですが、Z シリーズの第5弾を、6.3 でリリース予定です。
And then we are already starting to make plans for this, but we do intend on adding one more ultimate duty. So this will be the 5th one in the series.
そしてですね、6.2 でリリースされた、無人島開拓のアップデートももちろんやっていきます。
And then, of course, because we will be opening up the Island Sanctuary as of 6.2 at 6.3 series timing, we will continue to update it.
でまあ、4と5はちょっとパッチ 6.4 と5はまとめてのご紹介になっちゃいますが、この4と5でグレーン編のメインクエスト ID のフェイス対応を全部終わらせて、まあ、これで、ストーリー上に登場する ID は、全部対応が終わる予定です。
And then next page covers both 6.4 and 6.5 series. But by this time, we aim to complete the trust system implementation into all of the Stormblood main scenario dungeon series.
Something that I saw someone in chat say that is kind of interesting. They haven't chatted about it yet or anything. It's the cross data center.
開拓の開拓エリアを追加したりっていう予定ももう当然ね、我々長期計画で進んでいるので予定されてます。
And then, of course, our Criterion dungeons will see an update. We should have numbers 2 and 3 implemented. And then for Island Sanctuary, at this time we want to expand upon the area. So we'll have an additional area.
That's what it's supposed to be. So I think
で
it's
です
supposed to be
ね、
like a
例え
scale
ば青魔
dungeon.
同士のレベルキャップをどのタイミングにする、解放をどのタイミングにするのとか、そういう状況を見ながら調整しているものに関してはどうしてもまだ言えないので、それらもちゃんとどっかのタイミングでやっていきますんで、
Island Sanctuary
またそれぞれ
6.2
でですね、パッチのこう特集をお待ちいただければありがたいなと。やらないとかいうわけじゃないんで、ここに書かれてないものはね、まだ詰め切れてないものはちょっと言えないのでさすがに。まあこのあたりはもう全部
Like every 4
確定しているの
months.
でお知らせしております。
I'm sure some of you might be wondering about, okay, when is the next time the Blue Mage is going to have their level cap increased? And some of these items we need to monitor the situation, and so I'm afraid we aren't able to determine exactly when this is going to happen, but we do intend on doing it. We will share more information when we are going to do like a patch specific
server updates too.
like updates live stream.
They showed us.
Please note that even if it's not written in the document, it doesn't mean that we're not going to do it. So yeah, there might be information that we're still in the planning phases and we weren't able to solidify at this time. So we will continue to look at the various existing content and provide updates when we can.
Awesome.
まあなんかパッチ情報を出すとみんな細かいところあれはどうこれはどうってやっぱなっちゃう。
A lot of rating. I think every patch is rating.
皆さんが思ってることは基本的にやっていくんで。
There's two ultimates, so every other one is Pandemonium, Savage.
I see that people in the comments are talking about various granular areas of patch updates, and I think it's safe to say that things that we know people are expecting in a regular update will more than likely be included. So I want to make sure that yeah, don't be worried.
まあアルカスソーダラの次のはどうなるの、種族ってどうなるのとかもう全部決まってます。ちゃんと毎パッチやっていくので、まああれかなこれかなって思いながら待っていただけると嬉しいです。
And the tribal quest beyond Arkasodara is I'm sure a mystery, but we have a plan. We do have like which group to focus in on, and we do want to have content available per each of the patch. So it'd be great if you could wait or not wait, but like
and then all the alliance
speculate,
stuff too.
Kind of imagine which tribe will we be focusing in on.
あとゴールドソーサーも予定してるんですけど、4になるか5になるかまだ決まってないんでちょっと待ってください。
Yeah, it's supposed to be a new game.
And we do intend on making Gold Saucer updates, but we still haven't determined if it's going to be 6.4 or 6.5, so that's why we're not mentioning it at this time.
さあ、というわけでまあ変わらずですね、モリモリでやっていきますよというお知らせでした。
But yeah, just wanted to go through all of these roadmaps just so that we know that we plan to continue providing very hefty updates.
ただですね、一個皆さんにこれを踏まえてですね、ちょっとお知らせをさせてください。
Schedule announcement.
But with that being said, allow me to make one announcement.
メジャーパッチのサイクルについてです。
6.1.
And this is regarding the major patch cycle.
これまでですね、申請スタートからですね、まあずっとできるだけこの 3.5 ヶ月に1メジャーパッチ配信っていうのをまあ目標に掲げてやってきました。
So of course, since the relaunch as A Realm Reborn, we've tried to keep this pace of one major patch update per every 3.5 months.
でこれをですね、本当申し訳ないんですが、2週間プラスしてですね、4ヶ月にさせてください。
That's fine.
And I'm terribly sorry to ask you of this, but we need to extend it by 2 weeks, and so we want to change it so that it's one major patch every 4 months.
でこの2週間って何かっていうとですね、まあ我々開発内では実装期間っていうのと調整期間っていうので大きく2つあるんですけど、この実装期間にプラスあと1週間、それから調整期間にプラスあと1週間の時間をいただいて、まあマイメジャーパッチを 3.5 ヶ月でなんとかやってきたのをちょっと4ヶ月、まあプラス2週させていただけると助かります。
So of course we have periods of our development cycle where it's development and then implementation and various adjustments, fine tuning that we do. So those 2 weeks that we ask of you for your patience is 1 week for additional implementation, and then 1 week for or 1 week additional for fine tuning. So that makes it that 3.5 months now turns into 4 months.
でですね、夏季休暇期間とか、我々やっぱりサマーバケーションスタッフに渡したりですね、年末年始やっぱり家族とねゆっくり過ごしてほしいっていうのがあるので、夏季休暇期間とか年末年始の場合には、これにプラス1週間ねさせていただくことがあるかなと思います。
Even though it's 4 months, they have like
in
every
addition
like,
to that, we do have breaks, like summer vacation or summer holidays, New Year's holidays. I'm sure people have family that they would visit over the holidays, and so for those holiday seasons, we might see an additional like 1 week's not delay, but like 1 week's time added as well.
やっぱりここまでその前半の10年間っていうところでもお伝えしましたけど、相当みんなの開発チーム運営チームのモチベーションっていうところに頼ってやってきたところがあるなと思っていて、それは僕自身のこう稼働の高さも含めてなんですけど、休みたいというよりはやっぱり適切にみんな健康で健やかに開発に取り組むことでよりクオリティも上がっていくだろう。でも事実足りてない無理をしてきたっていうところもあるので、ちょっとそれが理由になってます。
As I explained in the first half, when we were looking back at our first 10 years, we really depended on the motivation of each of the developers that are on the team, and me included. I was moving around and very hands-on with my team, but looking at our schedule and how we work, I do want my team to be healthy and be able to sort of maintain a good level of quality because they are taking the necessary breaks. And to be honest, there were areas where we might not have performed as well as we should have because some of us may have been pushing too hard. So that's the reasoning behind why we want additional time.
で非常にね皆さん優しいコメントいただけてるんでとても嬉しい。特にスタッフの健康とかね気遣っていただけてるんでとても嬉しいんですけど、これまで 2.0 からねなんとか 3.5 ヶ月でこうやってきたこの実装10何週調整何週みたいなのでやってきたんですけど、ちょっとね比較を持ってきました。
And thank you so much for the kind comments regarding our staff and making sure that you're showing your concern to our staff members. It really warms my heart, and I'll make sure to relay that. But considering what we've been doing in terms of providing an update every 3.5 months since 2.0, and we work with a schedule of like such and such weeks for implementation and whatnot. So we put together this comparison chart for you to take a look.
これまで
December 7th was expansion came out, so probably first week of April.
調整デバッグっていうのを3.5 ヶ月でやってきてたんですけど。
Of course, our development largely is broken down to planning, development, adjustments, and debug. And this is some of the numbers that we've pulled up.
パッチ 3.3 の時が左の列、5.3 の時が右の列です。
So the column on the left is patch 3.3 series timing. And then the column on the right is patch 5.3 series.
コンテンツ数がねそこまで極端にってわけじゃないんですけど、やっぱジョブ数がまずね11だったのが18になってたり、ボス数が作ってるボス数がもう17から23って増えてるんですね。これ当然調整コストめちゃくちゃ増えてるんで。増えましたな。
So, I mean, the number of content, like types of content, may not have varied over the years. But if you look at, say, like the number of jobs, from patch 3.3, it's 11 jobs. We've now jumped up to 18 as of 5.3, which means a lot of different balance adjustments for those. Number of bosses have gone from 17 to 23.
もちろんね開発スタッフっていうのも皆さんからいただいた月額課金で、まあ、どんどん採用してどんどん増やしていてチーム規模も当然上がってるんですけど、じゃあ人が増えればそんなに簡単に僕ら工場製品作ってるわけじゃないので量産が上がるかっていうとやっぱりそうではない。トレーニングも必要、経験も必要。そんなスーパーエースたちが中川とか須藤とかがバンバン育っていくわけじゃないので
8 races, yeah.
Of course, with our development team, thanks to the support via monthly submissions, our subscriptions from everybody, we are able to strengthen our team. We were able to hire additional staff. And so our team has definitely grown, but I mean, we're not in a factory manufacturing, we're not an assembly line. So we require training. We require for our staff to gain experience. Not everybody is a super ace player like Nakagawa or Sudo.
例えばこの開発チーム運営チーム三角形だとした場合に、この三角のスケールはめっちゃ大きくできるんですよ。
はいはいはい。
だけど結局上の方に行くと、どこまで行っても最後は頂点はディレクターとかプロデューサーってなってくると、ここがやっぱそんな簡単には増えないんで、まあ、何でもかんでもたくさん調整もチェックもせずに出すってわけにもいかないから、まあ、吉田を別に分身させろとかその培養して増やせばっていう考えもなきゃしもあるんだけど、ちょっとまだテクノロジーがそこまで追いついてないんで。
So if you would imagine our sort of team, I guess, our staff, or how we're organized as like a giant triangle. And of course, we can always scale the triangle to be larger, but I mean, it's still a triangle, so the tip is very small. And when you get to like the director and producer level, I mean, we train fantastic people, but like it doesn't grow in numbers as much as like when you scale the lower part of it. And there still requires a lot of adjustments that need to be applied on the things that we do create. And of course, it would be awesome if we can create like multiples of Yoshida. Maybe if we can clone him or like, I don't know. But still, it is quite a challenge.
吉田にハイデリンキックして分割しようって言われてるけど、それ薄くなってんじゃん1吉田。
一気に14個に。
Somebody's saying, perform the Heidelin kick on Yoshida and sunder him, then we'll have 14 of him. But then, wait, no, but he's sundered, so he's like thinner. Like, you have a diluted version of him.
いやいや、まあでもね、例えばそのカットシーンの数字なんてね、2時間25分トータルだった自動送りしていくと、まあ、パチコーテだと4時間30分になってるんですけど、まあ、当然ですけどそのいただいた利益で人も増やし、いろんな会社さんにお願いして腕のいい人たちにたくさんカットシーンやっぱ作ってもらってるんですけど、どうしてもねディレクションする側っていうのの人数は限られてくるので、それでももう倍増近い感じですし。
And if we look at the cutscenes, we went from 2 hours 25 minutes to 4 hours and 30 minutes. And this is like if you let the dialogue autoplay. But I mean, we have brought on many talented people onto our teams, but we still require somebody to look at the product that they create. And there needs to be a director that makes sure that we're aligned.
もうなんか面白い、もうなんか能力の薄い吉田のただのやからやんけって
comments still going on about Sundered Yoshida, like, well, but what if he's like that's like a low quality Yoshida? It's just a man.
まあというわけでですね、これからもちょっと今日お伝えした内容 7.0 に向かっていろいろやっていきます。パッチの物量というのも頑張ってまた作っていきますし、クオリティとか調整というところも妥協なくねまた進めていきたいとは思うんですが、まあその分ですね、ちょっとこれまでのパッチサイクル3.5 ヶ月にプラス2週させていただいて4ヶ月っていうサイクルでですね、ここから先まだまだ楽しみお届けしていこうと思ってます。
And here's
But yeah, we are
Bobby.
making various plans leading up to 7.0, and we still want to continue bringing you the different patch updates. And so, with the different
graphic updates,
elements that we implement, as well as the balancing that we do, the fine tuning, we don't want to compromise any of that. That's why we do want to continue producing the patches to the quality that we hold ourselves up to. So we do want to ask for that initial 2 weeks so that we will have the 4-month patch cycle, but we will continue to bring you regular updates.
まあ本当にあと10年やっていけばとてつもなく長い旅になると思ってます。皆さんとね一緒に今度は20年歩んでいこうってことになるかと思います。
And we strive for another 10 years. This is our goal. And I'm hoping that we will get to a point where we will be celebrating, or like we will be looking back at our journey in our 20th anniversary.
まだまだやりたいことね、チャレンジしてみたいことあります。驚いてもらえることやっていこうと思いますので、ぜひこの先もですね、一緒にまたボッティン作っていただけると嬉しいです。はい。
We do want to do more, take on more and more challenges, bring you more surprises. So I want to continue building this together with you all. So yeah, it would be great if you could continue to keep with us.
はい、では前半。
はい、ありがとうございました。Thank you very much. So this is all about the first half of today's letter live. 今日の前半、プロデューサーレターライブの前半戦はここまでとなっています。
1個忘れた。DC トラベルはいつが結構多くて、今のところ予定 6.18 かなで予定してますんで。
Sorry, one more thing. We did see a lot of comments about, so when is data center travel going to be implemented? We are currently looking at 6.18 timing for that.
6.18. Nice.
はい、ありがとうございます。ではこの後休憩に入るんですが、ですね、今日は後半戦は、通訳は別の方にお願いすることになっておりますので、あゆみさんがここまでとなります。So before going to break, because we have another person for translation for the Q&A part. So that's it for あゆみさん today. So あゆみさん、皆さんに一言ご挨拶お願いします。
はい、長い間お付き合いいただきありがとうございました。Thank you guys so much for your patience as we navigate through all of this. But yeah, I will see you guys at another opportunity.
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much, あゆみさん。
では僕がね安心してこうゲームシステムの話っていうのを全世界の皆さんにこういつもの調子でお届けできるのは、本当にあゆみさんの高い翻訳スキル、特にね僕の性格を把握した上でのやっぱり、トランスレーションがねもう長くなりますのでね、僕らもコンビを組ませてもらって、なんで本当に助かってます。いつもありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。ここどうやって訳しましょう。
吉田さん Ami-san really knows Yoshida-san's characteristics very well, so it's we are very relying on Ami-san's translation for when he explains the game systems or mechanics. So thank you very much.
All the updating servers too.
では今から休憩に入るんですが、1時40分再開。So we want to restart the latter part of the letter live at the 1:40 p.m. Japan time, which is in 20 minutes. でですね、今日の休憩の音もご紹介したいと思います。So during the break, we have 2 videos today for you to enjoy.
20分あるから1本ならいいやと思ったら2本あんのかよ。
Yeah, we have a 3-second digest preview of all the songs from the upcoming Endwalker soundtrack, and a time-lapse video of mosaic art we created live using screenshots that we were submitted by our players during another broadcast. 2本ありまして、1本目は、先日つい最近公開しましたエンドウォーカーのサントラが出ます。それの、3秒ダイジェストの全曲紹介の、トレーラーがありますので、そちらをご覧いただき、その後ですね、これも先日ご紹介しましたが、別の生放送企画でモザイクアート、皆さんからお送りいただいたスクリーンショットでモザイクアートを作るという企画がありまして、それのタイムラプスビデオがありますので、そちら2本続けてご覧いただいて、また、1時40分から再開したいと思います。はい、それでは休憩です。ビデオをご覧ください。どうぞ。
Awesome. What do you think, No More? Excited?
Looks cool.
There's a lot, man. There's a lot.
Yeah. For sure.
I was thinking, let's see. Just want to look through real quick here.
見えてくるようになるので、その追加を。
With the graphical.
では、バックグラウンド、実はね、まだあるんですけど、
Overall, it was really good.
思い出していただきたいんですけど、あそこ実は
Graphical updates is
fabrics
huge. I
and
think that would be
the
massive.
game. So we
いきますよというお話です。
Hildebrand will be making his
So we have
return.
MSQ. This one, the Hildebrand. That's
新しい
throughout
サブ
each
クエス
patch,
ト
I
シリーズ
think.
としてですね、タタルの
So
大
they get more and more.
Doing your warrior
どんどんいきます。パッチ 6.1 まだまだあってです
The
ね。
Alliance raid, the new PvP, Ultimate. Ultima's Bane. What is Ultimate's Bane? Is it just like an updated thing that they're doing? And then the Beast Tribes.
アライアンスレイド、ミソロジー・オブ・エオルゼア、12時にまつわる件があって、絶は
we will finally be reopened their
And
item
all the
level.
trials,
So
all the
even if
Alliance
we're going to
raid.
try to figure out. So in our next two
Trust thing's really good for the game. This is kind of going to be interesting. This new calling card style. I think this is a different reward that they can customize or whatever. New hairstyles, Ishgard housing. Custom deliveries, is that for crafting in that?
That's
gathering?
usually crafting, yeah. Or crafting gathering, yeah.
Okay.
live letters.
So
There's
more of
one
that.
definitely planned on March. The
March 4th is the next
so
live
next
letter.
up is the 6th.
I am really curious about this, though. What are they doing exactly? We're not going to get details for a while, but...
What are they doing? What?
This mythical plus dungeon thing that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
do. Because I remember Asmongold's interview with Yoshi P. Asmongold asked him about this, and he had a huge smile that they had plans for a Mythic Plus system.
Gotcha.
So I'm really curious. This is good because this is another form of fun content, and it has to be different from deep dungeoning. So I wonder what exactly they're going to do. And I'm curious on the new deep dungeon, how many floors is it going to be? Are they going to do like Heaven on High, where it's just 100? Or are they going to do Palace of the Dead 200? Or are they going to like maybe be different? I don't know.
Gotcha.
Maybe they go 120. Maybe they go 150. I don't know. They could. Island Sanctuary, there it is, 6.2. So if we're doing the 4-month schedule, I'm guessing the first week of April is when 6.1 will come. The next one, which would be 6.2, Island Sanctuary, will be August, probably the first week of August, if they're doing 4 months. And then what's after that? So September, October, November, yeah, it'd be December again. It'd be the first week of December for 6.3. If they go with that route. So it should be December, April, August is what they're scheduled. If there is no delays or anything, because they're still going through COVID and but
6.2 series.
But yeah, 6.2
this
looks
is one
really
of
good.
the large
異なる新生オルゼアの 2.x シリ
More of the trust system throughout the whole thing, so
ーズでくるので、その辺
they're
は
working on the old
you
game
do that
too.
update like a
こちらも
get a new deep
Yeah,
dungeon.
Deep Dungeon
And
is
so
6.3 is what they're planning. And an ultimate in Island Sanctuary. And then plus, obviously, Alliance Raid, the trials, and everything like that. Is there trials in each
expansion?
patch? No, each patch.
Or patch?
Is there like an extreme trial?
I'm
Let
not
me see.
sure.
Let me check
I don't
here.
think so, but
6.2, there's trials, other trials. There's 6.2, 6.3.
Oh, you mean
trials
these new ones?
Yeah. So it looks like every patch is having a trial, extreme trial. Obviously, Pandemorium, Deep Dungeon, Island Sanctuary. The trust system, and then these dungeons. There's going to be 6.4. They're going to add more to whatever this mythic dungeon thing is. An additional area for Island Sanctuary, so they get a little expansion as well. Interesting. All I know is Final Fantasy is going to get a lot better. So that's all I know. There's going to be a lot of content. Because if they add
it has been getting better and better.
If they're adding, well, you think about it, this whole expansion, they're adding a deep dungeon. Like, just the content you can do, deep dungeon, if that's your thing, with like leaderboards and stuff like that. They add a Mythic Plus system in there. That's like doing dungeons, but with like different, like, you know, affixes. It's kind of like maps in a way, in like PoE, where like, obviously you can't, I don't think you're going to be able to change them like a map, you can, but like, you know, you have like the different affixes of what could happen. Like WoW, it's probably gonna be close to like WoW's maybe, but different. I don't know if they'll do that. I'm not really sure exactly because I don't do Mythic Plus and WoW.
I've done a few, but not really.
I pretty much quit WoW at the time.
For a sec.
Yeah, I pretty much quit at the time that Mythic Plus came out. I quit it during WoD, and then Legion they introduced Mythic Plus, which I thought was a cool system. But I don't really know. I think they do like a weekly affix or something like that. From what I've seen from other people playing, but I don't know. But so I'm kind of curious what they're gonna be different in this. I wonder if it's just like completely different dungeons that just scale. Like you get one dungeon, and this is like a scaled dungeon, and then they do 2 and 3 dungeons total that you can scale. Because like Final Fantasy does a good job where it's no like FOMO, right? I don't think there's like any FOMO in Final Fantasy 14. It's just content you can just go do whenever you want to go do it.
Yeah.
Island Sanctuary, obviously, like everyone's ready to. I just want to see it, what it is. Obviously, I knew we weren't going to get that. That's not going to be until 6.2. Live letter.
Areas of patch updates.
Okay.
We aren't able to determine adding one more ultimate duty, so this will be the 5th one in the series.
5 ultimates.
And it's quite large scale. So
there's a lot. Plus all the alliance raids, you got the alliance raids, ultimates, the savage raids,
of course, a new series,
which is crazy. Very cool though, very cool. So that is it for the YouTube video. If you guys want to like, subscribe, or comment down below what were your thoughts about the live letter. I'm not gonna watch the Q&A. I'll watch it tomorrow, but I'm not gonna stream it. I'll just watch that on my own. I just wanted to see this part. But overall, my thoughts, very excited. Multiple different avenues of like content, as in more things you can go do, like more deep dungeons, more, because I barely touched Heaven on High, and I haven't like grinded out Palace of the Dead like further. But another deep dungeon, Island Sanctuary, the Mythic Plus system that they're gonna do, plus all the Savage raids. I really want to get into raiding, like really bad, because I think it looks really, really fun. So the Savage raids, obviously, the Alliance raids, the trials, the extreme trials. There's a lot. So obviously we're getting the Hildebrand questline, more MSQ. They're upgrading the game graphically, which is really, so if you think about it, there was a lot that they got scheduled for, and they mentioned it before, but like the servers, they're adding more servers. They gave us a roadmap on them adding more servers. Like I think NA is getting a whole nother data center with more servers in it, and I think EU is as well. And I don't know, there's multiple servers, so they got that all laid out. And then they're doing the cross data center, right? The glamour updates. There's like a lot this is just like I think like the major ones, and then we still have like the minor stuff that they're gonna do as well. So it's a lot to unpack. There's quite a bit. I'm really excited for March 4th because I think we're gonna see more like in depth with the PvP stuff that I'm very excited about. That's another thing. Like the PvP is getting revamped. That if they actually do good with the PvP, there you go. There's more content that can keep you, because they have seasonal, and they're going to do the battle pass reward thing. That's more stuff that you can just be playing the game and having fun. So I hope that's really good. Yeah, I'm just going to be super hooked on Final Fantasy 14. So, but thanks for watching this video. If you did, hope you guys enjoyed the reaction that me, No More, and even Dark was here for a little bit. So, but yeah. So anyways, we'll see you next time. Adios.